Hello, good morning, and welcome to Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. I'm your host, Samson Ladi Anyanini. The NMC Settlement Panel has a decision on the documentary Militia in the Heart of the Nation. We check if that was a fair resolution of the petition by the government. Media freedom under Akufo-Addo's regime. We examine the record so far. Are the critics right in claiming that, including that, he supervised the worst so far? And the AFCON budget and matters arising. We will also ask questions about the CID clearing Bisu in the Anas Galamsey fraud matter. What is Amidu's beef? Don't go anywhere. We'll ride back to deal with the vexed matters. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, it's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And as I wait for my panelists, I have one of them in studio. Let me go to Samson's take. And I title my take, Hope to Intense, Uninspiring Law Enforcement Chiefs. I went to Legon in 1999, desiring to become a lawyer. Ultimately, I left Legon with a dream, though undergraduate law was halted about this same time. But my literature and English teacher, Seidu, advised it would be great to start the journey picking courses in the humanities, including classics and English. When I was done, I thought it would be good to use the period of national service to experience a life in the media before a second degree studying law. I held on to the dream even though I started paying my own fees in junior secondary. It was a struggle and it was grace. I still don't know exactly how to leverage on friendship, seek favors, or use protocols even when offered. My brain seemed programmed to due process and merit. So after barely a week in Love FM's newsroom, editor Saeed Ali Yaqub sent me out on assignments and alone, but with sufficient instructions and guidance. And I wasn't a dummy, so the results got me immediately filing reports to the almighty Joy FM in 2003. In the fourth month, Kweku Sechiado told the BBC I could cover a major celebration of the Asante King at the sports stadium for them. In the sixth month, the BBC would hand me a job, and I remember the feeling earning pounds sterling, report after report, mostly done with little or no supervision and hardly edited even by the scrutinizing editors at the BBC. It wasn't long before managers at Multimedia Group Limited came to Kumasi demanding I moved to Joy FM for bigger assignments. That's when I knew a diligent intern could achieve beyond their wildest imaginations. When I signed the contract, came to Accra, and Kweku gave me the guidance to open a Forex account at Barclays Bank, I went home, used the laptop in the kit I was handed to access and read very carefully Kweku's reports, especially. Internship was the only journalism school, and it was work, fulfilling work. This week, an intern, a national service person of one of Nigeria's biggest TV stations, Channels TV, was shot while covering a protest by Shiite Muslims, and when they clashed with police in Abuja. He died. This week, Ghana's sanitation minister was angry Adom FM would demean her quote-unquote high office by assigning an intern, Rahinatu Abdul Bach, to interview her. The communications minister, who in opposition insisted she had no regrets calling a sitting president quote-unquote a thief, urged her colleague ministers to take a cue while complaining about, quote, nauseating chronic disrespect for political office holders, unquote. I don't have any problems with a politician or anybody declining interviews with interns. The manner they elect to do so could be such that it doesn't leave immortal psychological bruises. The poor intern reportedly said she almost shattered her dream to be a journalist. Sometimes it may be necessary to get blunt, but let's do so with peers, older people, and plain lying, unrepentant frusters. What I have a big problem with is the needless and unprofessional conduct of making that recording in the first place, and second, making it public. The issue may have been resolved, but she obviously didn't consent to being recorded, and the rule and standard practice requires that you don't record a person or use their voice without obtaining their prior express consent. This week too, the IGP and CID boss failed for a third time to show up in court over the Gregory Afoko contempt case. It made me sad, and all I say about the conduct is that this is not how you build a law-abiding society. Law enforcement chiefs treat the court with complete disregard by refusing to obey a simple order to attend court. Contempt is either criminal or quasi-criminal, and these, of all people, know better that they do not require any prompting to be present in court for the case. Well, except that no ordinary tax-paying citizen, not fed, not housed, etc. by the state, will dare put up this conduct and be entertained. Never. A bench warrant will be issued, sometimes even upon the very first day the suspect or contaminant fails to be present in court. We arrest and compel them to obey the law and the courts. But why do I feel the court has its verdict ready and it's bad for these uninspiring, contemptuous, living on tax and living on citizens' tax elders in town? The poor, vulnerable, voting, and not powerful citizen shall speak one day about how they are treated in the name of enforcement of law and order. Don't ever forget that. Lord, carve upon my heart the truth that sets me free. My next take should be on the NMC settlement panel ruling on the militia documentary. In the meantime, we are Joy. Our decision and policy is never to call these political party thugs threatening the peace, vigilante, but militia. Sometimes it may be okay to leave people to their conscience and to God. Thank you very much. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis show. My guests are all seated. And let me introduce from the one who was on time, in time, Kojo Opong Nkrumah. He is the Information Minister and MP of Fuase Ayerebi. Thank you for joining us, Kojo.
Thanks, Absa.
Good to have you. And also here in the studio, in that order that I announced, is our regular panelist and managing editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper, Abdul Malik Kweku Bako. And after today, he will take his usual leave. So I have announced it. Don't come asking me every day, where's Kweku, where's Kweku, where's Kweku? He will take his usual vacation. He deserves some vacation. Also here is Samuel Okujato Ablakwa, MP, North Tongue, and ranking member, Foreign Affairs in Parliament. Randy Abbey is host, Good Morning Ghana on Metropolitan Television. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome to all of you.
Good morning. Good morning.
Right. So let's get straight to the National Media Commission as constituted by the Constitution of the Republic, Chapter 12 of the Constitution and Article 266. The Commission has what the law calls the Settlements, Complaints and Settlements Panel. And normally about 6 of the membership will sit and determine a matter chaired by its chairman, of course. And the government in March filed a complaint. And the complaint was to the effect that Joy had produced a documentary, Militia in the Heart of the Nation. And that documentary about the DI group was first utterly false and also misleading. It was untrue, it was utterly false, and was misleading. That was the government petition. The NMC, the multimedia, also filed their response and insisted that it dealt with facts and that those facts were sacrosanct. As the Media Commission panel committee to dismiss government's petition, well, they gave their ruling this week, and among others said that even though the documentary was in the national interest and the presence of those people in the castle was problematic and unacceptable, there was some ethical issues with the production. And it was misleading and sensational. Let's hear what our guests have to say about this particular outcome. And shall I start with you, Kojo? Right. So I've heard you already, but on Newsfile, let's hear you. What do you say?
Good morning, Samson.
Good morning.
And to colleagues here and to your viewers and your listeners out there. And maybe I'll start on a light note.
Okay.
That in the spirit of your own objections at the National Media Commission, you shouldn't be moderating this conversation.
This is not an adjudicating body.
Because you yourself are an interested party in this matter.
This is not an adjudicating body.
That is by the way.
Yeah.
I want to start by correcting 2 things before we proceed on that case. You have just said that the government said that that publication was false.
Yes, it was utterly false.
And that the National Media Commission ruled that your documentary was in the national interest. You have just said those.
Yes.
But I want to submit to you that those are not correct.
Okay.
Those in themselves are misrepresentations of the facts.
Okay.
The gravamen of the government's case was that there were breach of ethics in that documentary that was put together, that the narrative that was put out by Joynews was a misrepresentation of the facts and was misleading. That was the gravamen of our case.
Okay, let me just quote you small. Let me just quote you small.
Please
you said ahead. The documentary contained quotes, offensive, utterly false, a product of gross misrepresentation of facts and wild speculation, unquote.
And I've explained to you the gravamen of our argument.
Right, right.
And the National Media Commission ruled that your attempt to uncover what was going on at the Christianborg Castle was in the public interest.
Okay.
Indeed, the work that all journalists do is in the public interest. But it went further to make some very serious comments. That number 1, indeed, there were unethical practices in the package that was put together. There were misrepresentations that were made, and that the narrative that you put out there was misleading. Nobody will run away from the fact that there was a group at the castle known as the I Group, which group ought not to have been there in the first place. I think in the very first response that government gave, we consider that they ought not to have been there in the first place.
That's right.
And indeed, your documentary makes the further argument that There were even attempts by government earlier to get them out of the place.
Right.
So nobody will say that that in itself is false. But it is the attempt to create a certain impression that there was what you described as a militia group that was being trained from a security zone in Ghana. And if you read the promos that were sent, that there was an Akufo-Addo link to it, that we objected to and we protested. Because essentially, what you sought to put out for anybody consuming at home to consume and go away with was that while this administration was preaching against vigilantism and contemplating enacting legislation, even having a commission of inquiry, hidden in some security zone somewhere in this country, this administration was acquiescing or supporting the training of a militia. When you put the embodiment of the various words and pictures and other things that was put out together as published, we are of the view that it was misleading, it was a misrepresentation of facts. We are, I think, clearly vindicated, and we are not interested in necessarily gloating or going around town that we have won, because we believe that it is rather a moment for sober reflection. Sober reflection because there's something that is happening in our media space as a result of the competition and technology. There's something that is happening in the media space that we all need to pay attention to. For example, there's a difference between the fact, the narrative, and even if you choose to have an opinion, how we go about it. The journalism that we practice, media freedom, and the guidelines and the regulations of journalism are things that are regulated by law. They are not anybody's gift to us. And you quoted rightly the Constitution, Chapter 12, Article 162 and 163. They are the ones that actually create or recognize the media, its independence, and the animal we call freedom of media, which we'll have an opportunity to discuss later today. But the media is also a public trust. Indeed, if you read the National Media Commission's National Media Policy, which was published under the chairmanship of, I think, Tim Akwa-Hayford when he was chairman. I want to read to you Section 5.1. It says the operation of the media is a public trust regardless of the ownership. What that means is that all of us have the right to a media that we can trust, that when they put out the fact, it is the fact. When they put out a narrative, it is a reasonably deductible narrative from the fact. Not that they alone have a certain narrative or view to a particular matter and want to force it down everybody's throat. And even when they choose to do opinions, they would ensure that there's fairness and balance, and the standards for opinion journalism are upheld. And that is why you find that the Constitution sets up in Article, I think, 166, or 166 onwards, the National Media Commission. And if I have your permission to read 167, the functions of the commission, says that to take all appropriate measures to ensure the establishment and maintenance of high journalistic standards in the mass media, including investigation, mediation, and settlement of complaints made against or by the press or other mass media. What that means is that in the preservation of the public trust, the people who can undermine the public trust are not just outsiders. Sometimes we as journalists, the way we go about our work can undermine the public trust to the extent that in the subsequent years, people may have less and less confidence in media work. And today you will notice that the Afrobarometer reports suggest that confidence in the media is gradually waning. And we have to do something collectively about it. Now, what we raised as a major complaint was the fact that even though everybody will concede that there's this group known as the I Group that operated temporarily at the Christian Castle, later flashed out, if you go out there and tell people that there was a militia being trained and operating there, especially in these days when we are all working to fight vigilantism, etc., the narrative that you are crafting is misleading and it's a misrepresentation of facts. And in ruling, the National Media Commission, I think, goes through very clear pains and puts it out. When, for example, we have an opportunity to have a discussion like this and raise issues of fact, narrative, and opinion, I believe that it gives all of us an opportunity, especially those of us in the media space, to introspect, remind ourselves what the various standards are, and perhaps to go back to the basics. And I'll give you a simple example. If I'm driving at 90 kilometers per hour, the journalist's first job is to report the fact, the hard cold fact, that I'm driving at 90 kilometers per hour. Nobody will dispute it. I may not even have opportunity to dispute it because it is the fact. But we all know that because of competition, etc., sometimes we want to spin narratives out of that. So you find a journalist who wants to say that he's overspeeding. The moment you now move into the carving of narratives, there's a higher responsibility on you that your narrative, at least by the test of the average reasonable person, must reflect the fact. So, for example, if I'm driving 90 kilometers per hour on this your Fanofa Street, and you say that I am overspeeding, the test of the average person will say, yes, indeed, I am overspeeding. If I'm driving 90 kilometers per hour on the Tema Motorway, and you say I'm overspeeding, this narrative will be misleading, will be a misrepresentation. So, I think for us, what has happened gives all of us an opportunity for sober reflection. Gives all of us an opportunity to sit back, particularly those of us in the space, and learn some lessons from this. We took 3 prayers to the commission. 2 were granted. 1 was not granted, with a clear explanation that by virtue of the fact that Joy had published our rejoinder, the commission deemed it fit. And if you go into the National Commission Act 449, and the powers of the Settlement Commission, they deemed it fit that the best route was to have Joy publish in detail the findings that they made accordingly. I think finally what I'll say
I thought none of your prayers were granted.
Why is that?
I don't think they granted any of them.
Okay. Let me take you through
You
our
said
prayers.
you want retraction and apology.
No, let me take you through our prayers.
Retraction and apology.
I have a copy of
They
our
didn't
petition.
order a retraction and apology. In the normal scheme of things at the National Media Commission, at the end of it, they will always order a retraction and apology. They didn't order one. Number 2, if the point is that, and I can understand that, if the point is that because a rejoinder had been published, that was urged on them from the beginning. When the respondent went to them, he said, government brought a rejoinder. It was published in full. So why are they here again complaining?
Let me read you our prayers.
Yeah.
So if you go to page 6 of our petition, we said that we want a declaration to the effect that the imputed documentary is misleading and constitutes a dishonest and deliberate misrepresentation of facts, calculated at causing undue public apprehension, alarm, and panic. The National Media Commission ruled that the publication was a misrepresentation and it was misleading.
No,
if you go further,
they said it was misleading and sensational. Where they used misrepresentation was in respect of the Ayawaso photographs. They said that use was a misrepresentation, not the documentary.
if you go further, it says that an order for the retraction of an apology to the government of Ghana on the content and the said documentary referred above. And I've explained to you that the NMC then came to the view that a rejoinder had been published, so they were of the view that the full findings should be published. If you go to the third one, we said further disciplinary measures as they may deem fit or they may see fit. They went on, like I said, to mention that in their view, what ought to be done is the publication of the findings that they made in detail.
Oh, okay.
I
That
heard,
for you is the
example,
discipline.
Of course.
Okay.
I heard, for example, this other argument that we didn't complain about ethics. So why were they talking about ethics? It's here. If you read the last but one paragraph of our petition, it says that it's our sincerest hope that this complaint will be seriously investigated by the Commission in accordance with journalistic standards. Because remember that that is their mandate, published by the Commission, as well as the ethics of the media profession. And let me land by just going through a few of the ethics of the GJA as have been published, and which I believe will be an opportunity for all of us as journalists to pay attention to. They zoned in on the guideline 23, which says that you have to ensure that photographs and multimedia content adequately reflect the event and do not highlight an incident out of context. For example, when you picked this picture from the Nigerian Senate, when the NSS was trying to prevent Bukola Saraki from entering the Senate, and he slapped the logo on it, and the promo essentially that says that you have uncovered a militia in the heart of the city. The test of any reasonable man walking around and seeing that would assume that, wow, this is going on here in Ghana. That was in breach of the ethics. Later, I heard this argument that there was file photo that was written on it. In the promo, as was put out, and I don't really seek to litigate this matter, and the promo as was put out, I'm not sure you see file photo on it. But be that as it may.
No, there's file photo.
Go to guideline 22.
What you presented to the commission did not have file photo.
That was a promo that was put out.
No,
on
that was
social
wrong.
media.
You picked that direct from BBC.
No, no.
So the fact that there was file photo was not under contest
this is the promo.
at the NMC.
I'm talking about your promo that you put out. Did not have file photo on it.
Okay, so not to get into a banter.
I don't want to really to get
what I'm saying is that the facts ought to be to be laid out.
Yes.
At the NMC.
Yes.
The NMC did not find that a online promo was used which didn't have file photo.
No,
in fact, they were asked the question. Once you put file photo there, is this standard journalistic practice? Their answer was yes. So the question was asked, so what is the unethical thing about it? And they said he ought to have explained a little further.
And I'm saying,
so that's what happened.
I'm saying that when you put a promo, you have said that you had labeled it as file photo. When you put a promo out that says that NPP militia group trains at security facility in Ghana, with these pictures from Nigeria, men in mask wielding guns, there's nothing written here that is a file photo. I don't want to really litigate this matter, but I'm saying that there's an opportunity for us to learn from it. Go to guideline 22. It says that you should ensure that even the headlines you put out are fully warranted by the contents of the articles that they accompany.
Okay.
I think we can go through various examples. Even in this particular matter, when you reported that the NMC says that your documentary was in the public interest, but sensational. That headline, for example, if we read the entirety of the report, is not necessarily fully warranted by the contents of the articles of that article. So for me, and for perhaps government, this is an opportunity to learn, to go back to the basics, to ensure that we do more of what one of the celebrated journalists, Anna Politskaya, talks about. What matters is the news, not what you think about it. What matters is the hard, cold fact.
Okay.
And if you choose that you want to spin narratives, please be sure that your narratives are in accord with what the test of the standard reasonable man will go by. Don't misrepresent, don't mislead.
Okay. I just want to ask you just one or two questions, just very brief, and I want to try to do that. Now, do you feel that you sought a vindication of the state or of the group, as in the DI group, not being a vigilante or militia?
I don't understand your question.
Okay. So that's the group. You see, the NMC's, the thrust of what they did was to say that there were no traits of violence associated with the group from what they saw. So that sort of give a clearance, if you like it, a clean bill of health to the group.
I don't think that's my understanding of what and we went to the NMC to say that you have misrepresented. You have found a group of persons at the Christianborg Castle. That is a fact. Nobody will run away from it. But instead of saying that you found a group of persons at the Christianborg Castle, can we find out who they are, what they do, blah, blah, blah. You went further to carve a narrative out of it that this group of people are a militia training in a security zone in Ghana.
They are under the guise,
well, you said they have militia training in a
both
security
vigilante
zone,
and militia
under the guise of government. And we petitioned the National Media Commission that thing you had done was in contravention of the ethics of journalism.
Okay.
Because you have sought to spin a narrative that is not in accord with the facts.
Number one.
And the NMC,
okay,
the NMC has come out to say that the fact that you recognize there and the narrative that you sought to spin are not in accord.
Okay, so I want this to be very brief because you've actually spoken for a very long time, but I just want this brief so that we cut this here. Now, my question again is, when you say it was a misrepresentation of the facts, it includes the most important facts to you, that the group is no vigilante or militia, correct?
It includes the most important fact that that group of young boys and girls in black and white looking for work there cannot be described as a militia group.
Thank you. Now, what do you feel when you find that there are facts that remain uncontested, and yet the NMC panel make this? Okay, so number one, is it contested that the group had used the castle and put on their address that the castle is their place of operation, and had said on their website, which they took down after the documentary, that those who train them are ex-military official or ex-security officials? Is that true or not?
And is that the basis on which you say it's a militia group?
Good. Number two, did they have any license to operate as a security entity as it is claimed that they may have been a security?
And is that the definition of a militia group?
Okay, so all these two are facts. Number two, before the commission, I may just end on this point. Yeah. Before the commission, this is one of the things that was brought out. That that the group illegally drove away national security operatives stationed at the Aviance Cargo Village at the Kotoka International Airport in Accra in 2017 and deployed its members in replacement. And that it took a director of the National Security Secretariat to conduct another operation to reverse this criminal act and send the national security operatives back to their lawful operational area, unquote.
But this was not established before the commission.
This was not contested.
It was not established before the commission.
No, I'm asking you a question.
It was not
challenged.
It was not established before the commission.
Okay.
It was not.
So once it was not challenged.
It was not established before the commission.
But it was before the commission.
The commission, remember, threw away several things that both sides brought. You went to the commission.
They did?
Yes, you went to the commission and argued that your defense was privileged comment.
No, don't go there. Just this small bit and let's move on.
But why can't I go there?
No, we can't. We don't have time. I need to move on.
You are impeding my press freedom.
No. I ask you a specific
question. You are
impeding
my press freedom.
I ask you a specific question.
I can't go there.
I ask you a specific question.
I should be able to go there. You went there and you said that your defense was privileged content and opinion and fair comment. And the commission said all of those are bogus issues they are not interested in.
They didn't say that.
They did. And they said that what they are interested in, okay, is whether or not these guidelines of journalism as we know them to be have been upheld or breached. And that is why they reminded you at a point that this is not a court for us to go through all of these things. And they zoned in on that and in the end adjudicated that, listen, those guidelines of journalism, the ones that we complained about, are the ones that have been breached. People may have their issues with DI Group. I don't speak with DI Group Limited or I don't speak for them. There are questions that you may want to address to them. Our interest has been...
I was just asking this small thing.
That's fine. Our interest...
A group that had been there...
That's fine.
That had gone to the airport...
That is fine.
...remove security operatives. And when we said privilege, you attended, I think, once and you didn't come back.
No.
But do you remember...
I was there with you like...
No, wait. Do you remember...
That is not fair. Hold on. That is not fair.
Part of the privilege
issue... that I attended once and I didn't come back.
Maybe twice.
No, please. Please. Don't misrepresent facts here.
Okay.
Don't mislead the public.
I don't want the two of us to...
Yes, I don't want us to do this.
You attended more than twice.
Please.
Okay, thanks.
I was there twice.
Okay.
As and when I was out of the jurisdiction, my deputy stood in my stead.
So I was correct. So you attended about twice.
You attended once and didn't come again.
Okay.
Those are the misleading narratives.
You attended twice.
Those are the misleading narratives we talk about.
Could you check this? Check this. We are not fighting. Listen to me.
We can learn
now, this is what I'm saying. This just more this, but I'll move on. What I'm saying is this. Once you put a pleading and it's not challenged, and then the commission members, those panel members, were shown conversations, private conversations between the author of the documentary and national security officers at the helm. They were shown the conversations between the journalist and them. No dispute was raised about the fact that they had gone to remove national security operatives from airport at the airport, and later it took an operation to place them back. When they say they don't exhibit traits of violence,
a predisposition
to violence. Yes. Are you happy with that? Especially also when your own admission is that these people were removed upon the third attempt with a joint police and national security officers. What again are you looking for in a violent group?
Can I respond to
Yes, please.
So, for example, you say that, in your opinion, the fact that this was not contested makes it true. I'm telling you, I was there with you. I'm telling you that the NMC told both of us that this is not a court. They are not going to deal with what is contested or not contested. They have narrowed the issues to what they are looking at. And in their opinion, or the opinion of this constitutionally mandated body that is responsible for upholding the highest journalistic standards, the ethics of the profession were breached when you mixed these things of photos from places that had no bearing of or no bearing on what we're doing.
Okay.
When you put out narratives that did not accord with the actual facts.
Okay.
I frankly think that we don't have to split hairs over this.
Sure.
And from the beginning, please indulge me briefly, from the beginning, we said that we hold you in high esteem. We think that in this particular instance, the kind of narratives that you sought to put on this matter were off. And we have had opportunity to appear before a constitutionally mandated body, which had the GJA president on it. We objected to it initially, he was on it. Mr. Bright Bleu, for example, was on it. Yes, the chairman was somebody...
The GJA president you objected to subsequently didn't sit on it.
He is not recused from any of the decisions.
No, I'm just telling you, even though
he is not
the one you objected to...
Mr. Bright Bleu
the one
of
you
the
objected
GJA
to
was there. Was he not there?
I'm saying that the one you objected to...
Mr. Bright Bleu of the GJA
the
was
one
there.
You objected
was he not
to,
there? So I really don't want us
eventually
to
left,
split
didn't join the process.
I don't want us to split
But the chairman we objected to continued to sit
and
throughout.
And he's not an executive chairman.
That's okay, thank you.
He doesn't have veto decisions.
It's okay, thank you. So, all right, so it's healthy, it's fine. But I just need to place on record that at a certain point, you were not present. And when you were not present, the facts of they having gone to the Avian's cargo village, chased out national security and taking over the job and having done other things, that fact was repeated over and again and discussed. And it was never thrown out.
Go ahead.
Okay, so look, you have read the ruling. I don't know what you think, what you make of it.
Thank you, Samson. For a second, I was looking for the president or chairman of the Joy FM Staff Association to step in because it was getting quite heated. But I must say that I have preliminary fundamental issues to raise. The first one being that I would have thought that government would not have proceeded to the National Media Commission. That's my initial fundamental issue. I think that if you look at the whole spirit and letter of Chapter 12 of the Constitution, which establishes a National Media Commission to insulate the media from governmental control, to guarantee press freedoms, and to allow for the media to operate in an unfettered manner. If I was in government, my advice would have been that let's sit with the management of multimedia and have a discussion. I think that government went too far in dragging the multimedia group to the National Media Commission. Of course, government is well within its right. I'm not saying that government has acted unconstitutionally or illegally. But you see, if you look at the history of our country and why the framers of our Constitution dedicated a whole chapter for media freedoms, and you come to consider the fact that a certain culture of silence, which had permeated quite deeply the new Constitution of 1992, set out to help all of us depart from that, guided by the principle of what Thomas Jefferson said, that the only security of all is in a press freedom, a free media. That's our only security. That is why all the rights, all the fundamental rights, we all acknowledge that when it comes to media freedoms, there is more liberty there. And it is the reason why this often quoted statement from John Stuart Mill, which found its way in the report of the Constituent Assembly, says that if all mankind minus one were of one opinion, mankind would be no more justified in silencing that one person than he, if he had the power, would be justified in silencing mankind. So fundamentally, I have a difficulty with government proceeding to the National Media Commission. It creates the impression that, and I believe same to be true, that this government is increasingly becoming intolerant and it is being overly sensitive. So that's the first preliminary objection. The second matter which we need to confront is with the entire tenor of the ruling. And I agree with the Media Foundation for West Africa that the NMC's ruling is very, very confusing in many parts. For example, when the NMC says that the DI group, they found their existence at the castle problematic and unacceptable, and leaves it there, does not tell us why you find it problematic and unacceptable. You leave us wondering, because you are arguing, the NMC is arguing that its activities are at variance with a vigilante group or a militia, as Ghanaians have come to understand it. And when we submitted our memorandum, Kojo confirmed that, I don't know if you saw it, to the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee as a minority and as NDC. On the anti-vigilantism. Yeah. We took the view that vigilantism is a misnomer. And it is our view that militia is more appropriate. And that vigilantism is more positive, as the dictionary definition suggests, is a group of people coming to augment law enforcement, trying to help maintain the peace. But in Ghana, what these thugs go about doing is not vigilantism. So for the NMC to say that this group is not a vigilante group, and yet finds their existence at the castle problematic and unacceptable, and does not tell us why you find their operations at the castle problematic and unacceptable, you leave all of us in a state of confusion. Then there's also the issue of when the group was evicted. In the NMC's ruling, and I quote, on the issue when the DI group exited the castle, whilst the government insisted that the group was evicted in October 2018, the multimedia group insisted that it was after the documentary that the eviction was carried out. Then it ends there. So we do not know who is right. Is government's claim right, or is the multimedia group? And we know, when you watch the documentary, that indeed, the dates, unless Manasseh got the dates wrong, there was even an end-of-year party. And so this claim of October
Okay, so there was an explanation to the end-of-year party. Mm-hmm. The end-of-year party, we are explained to understand, giving to understand that they had been evicted, but they came to apply, make an application to come back there to do their end-of-year party, and they were the request was granted. Okay, that's the explanation.
That's the explanation. They had been evicted, but they were allowed to come back to, this explanation, really. Look, let us be serious, and let us accord the people of this country discernment and intelligence. The facts, as has been put out, government itself has not denied that this group had no business being at the castle. Government has not denied that this group was being trained by ex-military officers, which includes a former bodyguard of the former president. Government, the current president. Okay. Yes, what is it? The former flag bearer. At the time, yes, at the time, he was bodyguard for the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party. Government has not denied that this group did not have the license from the Interior Ministry to operate. The
government says it's unfortunate that they were there and that they ought not have been there.
Yes. So
they explained to you that the guy, the former bodyguard, was giving the place as an office to do work for the state, retrieve vehicles. And after that, he continued to operate there and use it for purposes that had not been granted. So why are you blaming the government?
Why not blame the government? It's government's responsibility to ensure that assets that are under its control are not used for such activities. They created a website where they claimed they were carrying out all kinds of services. They had a motto which says protection and vigilance. Interesting motto. We are told that it was some recruitment agency, and yet their motto is protection and vigilance. Very, very curious. Then you also have something. The situation where this group, Manasseh adduced evidence, Daily Guide publication in 2012, where they had publicly announced that they were going to ensure that ballot boxes are protected.
No, they didn't say that.
That they will ensure.
They didn't say that. They have said that they were an energetic youth of the NPP whose job was to provide protection. For the officers of the NPP. They didn't say they were going to protect ballot box.
I'll bring out that publication. But Claire, even if I am to go with this argument, you are going to protect what officers of the New Patriotic Party in an election. Is that not one of the features of these political militias, what they carry out, which we have all frowned against? So, Samson, there is more in this matter than government will want us to believe and to accept. And that is why I take the view that the government should not have embarked on this path.
You say government, and you repeat that government should not have gone to the NMC.
Yes.
In your regime, you went to the NMC not once, not twice, about 3 times. And I remember one similar event, the Yutong bus. And I sat here, and James Ejenim Boateng sat where Kojo Ofon sat. And okay, I won't tell you the back issues. Kojo is laughing. And I engaged Ejenim Boateng in saying that it wasn't right for them to do, for you guys to do what you did at the time, including you announcing publicly that you had sort of blacklisted and boycotted Joy. How can you come today and say they shouldn't have gone to NMC?
Did I say?
He had forgotten.
I had not forgotten. Did I say that no government has ever gone to the NMC, or we didn't go to the NMC?
You said if you were in government, you would.
I said yes. On this matter, especially when the facts, I mean, it's clear that government was sleeping on the job. It's clear that government had allowed the castle where you have 6 ministers of state operating for it to be used for these illegal activities.
May I remind you that they insist that the fact that these ministers are there and it looks like it's an extension of the presidency still doesn't make it a security zone.
You had you had reported earlier when the president announced that place was being given to the Museums and Monuments Board to manage. And that's why we are clear that, first of all, if you go out there and say that you see, the embodiment of the words you put together creates a certain impression that a militia being trained in a security zone.
Okay.
Very different.
Don't worry, but we also deferred to Kwesi Enin, who insisted that it's a security zone. Yeah, go ahead.
Because his car was searched when he was entering.
Yeah.
You know that where you do know as a minister of state that where ministers operate, there is some level of security. That it behoves on the state to provide ministers with security, and that is why even outside the offices of ministers, you are provided with police protection. In homes, in your residence, there is police protection and all of that, because it's the duty of the state. So to suggest that a place where ministers are operating from as officials of state, there's really no security there. It's not a security zone. It's not a security zone. Any member of the public can walk in there.
When you say you are training a militia in a security zone, what impression do you send out to people?
Okay. Thank you. Let's hear from Kwekubako.
If I can conclude in a minute.
Yes, please do.
Conclude in a minute. You see, there are so many lapses, so many illegalities that this group clearly engaged in, that government should not rather be doing this to Manasseh and the multimedia group. They rather ought to be commended, because but for that expose, you had said that you even tried 3 times to get the group evicted, that you had to take a joint operation of national security and Ghana Police Service personnel to have the group evicted. I mean, it's curious that such an operation will require this level of intervention, and yet you want us to believe that there's really no cause for alarm and that Manasseh should be treated in the way.
Okay, thank you. Let's hear from Kweku now. Yes, Kweku, what do you make of the ruling of the National Media Commission's settlement panel?
Well, I might as well also make some preliminary comments.
Okay.
In line inspired by my brother here. And I'm very happy that you reminded him that the Ministry of Information under the Mills administration petitioned the National Media Commission. But my brother was not bold enough to accept your reminder in its real sense.
I didn't dispute
he didn't
it.
object to
I didn't
it.
object.
Listen
I didn't
carefully.
object.
No,
Okay.
no. He was dribbling himself.
Oh, that's
It's obvious.
That's most unfair.
I'm sorry. It's redrawn with apologies.
Oh, no,
sorry.
no, I don't need them.
No, I'm sorry, because I don't intend offending you. And if you're offended, please forgive me. It's redrawn. But the truth of the matter is that on November 1st, 2010, the then Minister of Information, John Tia, petitioned the National Media Commission. And Joy FM, you published it here. This is a Joy publication. Okay, it was on the mass rape saga. Yes. And why I was saying that perhaps you were not being forthright was because you premised your submission on basis of the spirit of the Constitution. The NMC is a creature of law of the Constitution. And the options for governments or ministries or anybody to go there is there. So if you were talking of the spirit of the thing, that spirit was still there in 2010. That's the point I'm making. But I think that you didn't.
Okay,
agree.
so
But let's move
let
on.
me correct myself briefly.
Yeah.
The 2012 Daily
Daily
Guide
Guide.
publication
Yeah.
was actually headed Vigilante Group Vows to Protect Ballot Box.
Yeah.
Protect Ballot. And it began by saying, leader of the I Vigilante, a group in the New Patriotic Party, Omar Farouk, aka Choman, has described the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, as a pacifist. Choman, a personal bodyguard of Nana Akufo-Addo, said he had been close to the NPP leader for a long time, stating that the presidential candidate frowns on acts that could destabilize the country. So I need this to be also in the context. He made the remarks after members of the Ashanti Regional Branch of the I Vigilante marched through the principal streets of Kumasi last Saturday during a float. Formed in 2009, the I Vigilante Group is made up of energetic male and female MPP members across the country whose primary target is to protect the MPP against any attacks by lawless people. So this is what I wanted to quote. Thank you.
I'm sure if you asked Mr. Fusampofu whether his proposition or his proposal to set up a ballot box protection unit is a vigilante group,
so
you tell no, that's distinct.
Okay.
The ballot box protection unit, you tell you that's not a vigilante group. You get my drift?
Of course, of course.
Okay.
They have said so.
All of them. So we've dealt with the first preliminary thing. See, the NMC is a creature of law, as I said, and it's in the Constitution. We all fought for that. Their rulings are not circumscribed, as far as I'm concerned. I have cooperated with the National Media Commission over the years. There was a time, I think the chairman, either Kofi Kumadu or Hayford, praised the new Crusading Guide, then the Crusading Guide, for its cooperation. a lot of rulings, some went against us. We asked to retract and apologize, and we did, based on the situation that happened there. But there was also an instance where I declined the invitation, indeed with Mr. Pratt, on two different issues. We declined the invitation as a matter of principle. And so the NMC dragged us to court. We were defended by Akoto Ampao. We won that case. The court ruled in our favor that we were not under obligation to accept.
And apologize.
Yes. So
I have advised against any attempt to disregard them or not even to go by their rulings and so on. I think that we're building a democracy and we need to respect the institutions, however we disagree with them.
Yes, I agree. But that particular, I just want to put on record that we, without showing disrespect to them, we declined the invitation as a matter of principle. And it's on record. It went to the appropriate forum, which was a court of law, and the court ruled in our favor based on the issues at stake. There's one thing that's worrying me. The I Group, did they sue multimedia?
They did. It looks like they have abandoned it. We don't know.
No.
They haven't taken a next step after that.
Yeah, but is there a case in court?
Yes, they have.
Okay. I don't know the reliefs they are seeking because I haven't seen the paper, but I read somewhere they had sued multimedia.
Yeah, they are saying they have been defamed.
Okay. I wish I knew the items, the elements of their rate. I don't have them. But you see, there's also one thing, and I must be forgiven for going this route. I was wondering whether it was appropriate for us to make this a subject of discussion in the absence of the NMC here. I was wondering.
Participating in the discussion?
Yes, I was wondering.
To explain themselves, you mean?
Yes, here is the minister representing government. I'm not, it would be unfair to say you are representing multimedia.
Oh, but he is. He's advancing their cause and the argument here. Are you not doing that?
Albeit in limited capacity. He's constrained.
That was the point.
A few times the
tried to
judge.
do in a subtle manner
Yes.
before it started. So
He's the prosecutor and the judge. Go ahead. I mean, I think we can all...
I wouldn't go that way.
No, don't worry. We can all deal with it.
He's hosting this program.
He's my friend, so we
He's
can
not
deal with it.
representing multimedia.
But you can raise the NMC on phone if you
Of course, of
No.
course.
if you think that.
Well, I'm not direct. I'm not out here to direct. I'm making my preliminary points. So I felt a bit uncomfortable, especially because of the banter that went on between the two of you. That's when this came to my mind. Otherwise, I didn't come from home with it. It just occurred here. You know, I'll be honest with you.
But frankly, I was trying very calmly to get him to answer.
Yes, it was because of the banter that it occurred to me whether it was
okay.
an appropriate subject matter for us to discuss it within this contest in the absence of one of the parties or two of the parties, if you like. So now, what are the issues? See, I remember when this story broke, we discussed it on this program.
Yes, we did.
And I remember that I made it clear that my perception or definition of militia did not fit the I Group. I said so
you
here,
did, yeah.
and I consistently repeated it elsewhere. It did not fit. And at that time, the Short Commission had done some discussions of this matter and pronounced on it through Venerable Professor Mensah Bonsu. But I still sat here and said I contested even the definition that Madame Mensah Bonsu had given. If you recall, I came with a certain report, Dennis Austin's book, on the CPP-UP paramilitary groups and their conduct and actions and the scale of the violence. And I didn't see any of these groups today fitting into that description. So in my view, I disagreed with the description of those groups as militia, that is the vigilante groups as militia, by the commission, even though the commission has accepted that and it's in the report that has been sent to the president. I have a copy of the executive summary here, and they make a very forceful argument and insist we should describe them as militia. But I disagreed with that. So I see the Media Commission's ruling going at variance with the definition of militia. I side with that. I don't believe that group was a militia. If you play back the same program we had here, I thought it was terrible that that group was given access to a state facility, the castle. It didn't make sense. But due to some political connections, they were allowed in there. And we also made a point that I was aware that the national security had been having running battles with them relative to their presence there. These are facts.
They actually echoed that in the documentary.
Exactly.
That whilst they were there, they suspected national security operatives to come spying on them.
Exactly. So I pointed to what was in the documentary as a basis to reinforce what I had already known. But that part of the documentary was factual. And even if that place is not a security zone, and I agree, it's no longer a security zone in the rare sense of the word, even though they have security checks, and there's even documentation to that effect anyway. So, but the fact that it was a state facility made their presence there completely inappropriate, and I'm being charitable, my choice of words, and indefensible. And you see, so we all agree that that documentary was in the public interest. Again, the Media Commission's ruling appears to reinforce that, and I still stand by that. I have a policy of not doing peer review of fellow journalists because I myself, I don't think I have the moral standing to go questioning fellow journalists. I've done a lot of mistakes in my practice. So I'm very careful with those things. But generally speaking, I thought that story, that documentary, was a good thing. Was a piece of journalism that was good. See, they've raised some things about some extraneous embellishments and things. I'm not sure. In terms of documentary production, those things are allowed. They are allowed. Okay,
so they said he needed to explain. For example, when he put the Nigerian thing and you just put file photo, that was not enough. He should have explained further.
Well, even Ayawaso specifically.
But in principle, see, but I'll tell you, the Anas,
the word they use, they fail to relate.
I'll just use one classic example, Tiger Eye. The cocoa smuggling thing that went to court, and which was determined by the court in favor of Tiger Eye and the state. If you watch that documentary, you will see big trucks with full of cocoa going to the harbor, coming out, and all those things. Really, he was in the bush, monitoring smuggling left, right, center. So that part of the documentary was not part of the thing. It was brought in to show people that, look, cocoa we export. If people smuggle, we lose revenue. Now, in exporting cocoa, this is how it's done. Yes, it's true. The judge asked for both the documentary and the raw footage. And in making his judgment, told the court that, look here, I'm excluding the documentary because of these elements. And I'm proceeding on basis of the raw footage to make a judgment. And this is what happened. I can understand where the National Media Commission was coming from, but I don't think they are a court of law.
No, they are not. They've admitted it clearly.
Yes, so my difficulty is to suggest that that is unethical. Relative to documentary production, I will find it difficult if that is classified as unethical. That's my
I would explain
view.
when I have an opportunity.
You can, but that's my view. Okay. So perhaps it's a matter of, is there a deficit? This is a very serious statement I was going to make. Deficit on the part of the members of the panel relative to what goes into documentary production? It's just a question. I'm not making a judgment.
But what do you say? The issue you brought up about what you had said earlier about they perhaps not fitting the description of vigilante, militia. The two words were actually discussed at length. Sometimes tempests flaring at the commission, at the panel hearing. So the the chairman, or let me now say the commission, some of the members were
the
clear,
panel, the settlement
panel.
complaints.
Yeah, the settlement panel. Some of them were clearly of the view, particularly two of them. They were clearly of the view that you shouldn't be using militia. And Manasseh insisted that I will use militia for the rest of my life for any group that is a vigilante. And that's actually Joy's policy after we heard from the commission.
I understand.
And they insisted that, no, but you can't do that. So the question now is, from where you also sit, you will not want to call them militia. Would you want to call them vigilante? From what you know about them?
You see, I think it would be safer to say they are a pro-government group. If you add vigilante, I have not seen them, and I was coming to that, I have not seen them in terms of their conduct and actions. And I'm being honest with you. I have not seen them behave like the Delta Force elements, the invisible force elements.
In fact, they speak against it.
I haven't seen them, and that's why I was taking them out of the context of vigilantes. But they are obviously a pro-government group. Otherwise, they won't get access to the castle.
Okay.
This is a group affiliated to government. Let's be factual about that.
That one, there's no question about it.
But you see, because of these things, and you just brought it back, I'm thankful you did. When you were having the banter with Kojo, something struck me, and I have some such records. The records of proceedings of the NMC.
Great.
Would be so useful.
Great.
To interrogate, to deal with these matters.
Okay.
Unfortunately, as I sit here, I don't have them.
Okay.
But I'm clear in my mind that the NMC has done its side. I would wish we all move on, learn lessons from these things. Nothing stops anybody from contesting the quality of their findings. That's how it's part of the democratic exercise.
Okay. All right. But it also has to be put on record that a leader of the invisible forces describes this group as one of the groups within the NPP's whatever. And a video evidence of that admission was tendered at the NMC.
Can I say something?
I don't have a problem with that. That's why I'm asking for the records of proceedings.
Video evidence was
will
tendered.
help us.
Two quick things just before he comes in. For example, you know the TV3 video
Yeah, there's something
of the interview of their... You see, I didn't want to go into the details.
That's not the one I'm referring to.
No, that's the one I'm referring to.
Okay.
The TV3
that's
video,
different.
where the I group themselves grant an interview and say that they have over 5,000 members across the country. Watch the raw full video. They start off by condemning these groups like the Invisible Forces, who you are saying have admitted that these are some of us, and therefore you use that as a basis to say that you are qualified.
And this evidence too was not contested.
And what was the date? What is the date
Relax.
of
Let me make my point.
that video?
The TV3 video. Oh, it was
No,
way
not the TV3, the one...
I wouldn't know his date.
That was after the publication.
Oh, okay.
So he is relying on this so-called claim by this Invisible Forces person who says that the I group is part of one of their groups. And I'm saying that there's a TV3 video...
I'm looking for his exact quotation. I'll share it with you.
Which they put in their documentary, in which the I group disavows all of these violent groups all over the place and proceeds to say that that is not the way to go. You should rather organize your people, give them training so that they can find jobs, etc., etc. And that for them, they have about 5,000 members across the country who they have put together and are training so that they can find jobs, etc., etc. In their editorial discretion, they edited out all the parts where these people disavow violence, etc., etc., and come and pick up where he says that we have 5,000 members across the country.
We
submit.
No, you mean they edited?
Edit out.
Yes.
You are doing a documentary.
Yes.
If you are doing a documentary, you use what you want to use.
Exactly my point. And that is why we say that we find a breach of the ethics. Because if you want to portray the thing for what it is, okay, why don't you let the man disavow the violence, proceed to put the context in which he talks about his 5,000 members across the country and what he seeks to do with them. But you, like in your own words, edit all of that out and say that you have the view that they have a predisposition to violence.
Not a view.
There are
You have the
5,000
evidence. You have the evidence, not just a view.
And the evidence of their predisposition to violence is
Uncontroverted
what?
evidence. And
Is
this
what?
evidence is not controverted.
Is what?
I
What
just
is that
mentioned
evidence?
one to you, what they did at Avian's cargo village.
Oh, please.
I just mentioned that.
Was there evidence of that before the commission?
Okay.
It was contested.
No, it was not contested.
Oh,
Let me tell you
please.
this. Let me tell you.
You
It
can
was not
call
contested.
Godfred Dami.
No, you are not there. It was not contested.
Okay,
listen,
so call Godfred Dami, who was a lawyer.
Listen. This is what happened.
Call Godfred Dami.
When that came up,
It was
when
contested.
that came up, conversations, private, confidential conversations
Edit out all of those
between
ones and you
persons
can
in
make
the
this
national security and Manasseh were disclosed to the commission members, because you can't put that in the response. So in the response, he hinted them that I have some conversations with what national security's own difficulty with dealing with the group, and
That is not
I
in
will
dispute
show
that
it to
national security
you
had
on a private basis. So he showed them these conversations, and that particular story was never controverted. Nobody raised
It
one
was
controversial.
contested. I said,
No,
call
it was
Godfred
not.
Dami or check the record.
It was not.
Proceedings. But my point is
I'm
this.
telling you it was not.
Don't
You were
worry.
not there. It was
No,
not.
I'm saying I call the lawyer. If you say I was
Okay.
going to call the lawyer.
All right.
My point is this. If you edit all of those ones out and you pick the part that says that 5,000 members across the country, and then you proceed to slap on it your narrative that therefore they have a disposition to violence, such a big group, 5,000 across the country, what you are doing and the pieces you are putting together. The NMC, for example, says that when you go to the DJA ethics, and I'm speaking in reference to your issue, guideline 23 says that when you are putting materials together, for example, they pick pieces from Ayawaso.
Okay, it's Randy's turn. I want you to be quick with that.
Let me
Yeah.
They pick pieces from
Ayawaso for the introduction, background.
clearly violent conduct.
Yes, background.
And set a certain context, okay? And play this group up within this context. This is your claim of other pieces of evidence that you have that give you a predisposition to violence. In fact, the terms of reference are that you put it in the material, because it is that documentary that is being contested.
You mean to avoid a surprise element?
Not necessarily that.
No, so quick.
You don't get to go and bring some
You
extra
submit
materials.
the documentary and you submit raw footage.
Yeah.
And that's what was done to the commission.
No, nobody has said that you don't submit the raw footage. This piece
Because
of
you can't do a
evidence-
documentary for 2
No,
hours.
No. That's not what we said.
That's true. You
That's
can't.
not what we've said.
Okay,
If you have
okay.
raw footage and you are editing the footage, that is different.
Okay.
If you say that you have some other piece of evidence that galvanizes your view, you put it in the documentary.
Okay, thank you. Randy,
Proud
now
to
let's
be
hear
a-
you.
You put it in.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So documentary production class.
301 or 401.
701. Well, I don't have any preliminary remarks on this matter, but you know, it's within government's rights. I mean, if it feels aggrieved by a matter, to go to the appropriate constitutional body, and so
No.
I do not have a
beg you.
problem with
Check-
government
get the raw
going to the
transcripts.
Go
NMC.
for the raw footage.
Yes.
No,
transcript
going through
of the hearing.
this whole issue, it appears to me as more of a form of a substance matter. You know, because there are some very critical issues. And let me first acknowledge the issue of learning and moving forward and all that. Look, there are a lot of people, both practicing and upcoming journalists, who learn from the likes of Anas and Manasseh with respect to the form of journalism that they've decided to focus on.
Yeah.
And especially going through the documentaries and all that. And so rulings like this or decisions like this, which brings up the issue of the ethics, what is more appropriate, what should be done, I believe all help in shaping things up and in helping everybody to do a much better job. I'm sure that if Manasseh were to do a documentary, again, I'm sure he's probably on one already, he might be mindful of some of the issues raised in this particular matter and might do things differently. Same as others who would want to also do some of these documentaries. And so for me, I mean, it's good that such issues are contested. And when they are contested, it helps develop the practice and makes things quite better. But you see, the issue of the place being a security zone or not, for me, once again, is an issue of form over substance. It's a state facility. You have 6 ministers of state operating from that place. I am not sure that a group of young people can just come and take over the garage at Kojo's ministry and start reporting at 8 a.m. and doing drills and whatever, and then closing at 5 p.m. and leaving the place, go and develop a website, put out what their mission is, the services they offer, and put Kojo's office as the address. Although Kojo's office, the Ministry of Information, is not a security zone. But you cannot have a group of young people just get up one day and say that, oh, there's some part behind his office or some side, and so they are going to assemble there in their hundreds on a daily basis and come there every day at a particular time and leave at a particular time and create some offices to use there. You know, it's not something that can happen and should happen. And you see, look, the confirmation that
Randy, the government admits that this shouldn't have happened.
Yes,
they were clear up front after the documentary.
I'm just saying that, you see,
except that before the documentary, officially they denied their existence there. They denied that they knew any such group there.
No.
Yeah,
Samson, no.
That was put out.
No. You see, I don't want to take his time, but these things are very critical. I had a chat with Manasseh before the documentary was aired. You recall that. See, I don't want to go into it. You recall, and since we're here, let me do it. We were just celebrating the Independence Day in Tamale. And I was ferrying your team from Accra to Tamale to go and cover it. And while we were there, Manasseh called me that he has uncovered a militia operating from a security zone. I had a phone conversation with him. I said, Charlie, my brother. And by the way, Manasseh is a very good friend of mine. I do understand today is his birthday.
Yes,
today is his birthday.
Yes. Happy birthday, Manasseh.
That's nice.
So I spoke to him on phone, and I said, bro, this job we do will be interesting. If you go out there and say that you have found a militia operating in a security zone, you would have to prove it, stricto sensu, because I can assure you that President Akufo-Addo will not let anything like this happen. So whatever it is you are finding, properly describe it and ask your questions so that we can also give you proper answers. What he did was that he sent the same text message to Eugene Ahen. And just like I did, Eugene denied that, there is no militia, which is why when we raised it initially, we said that publish the question you asked him and publish his answer. So that when anybody, because if you just mouth that, when we asked the director of communications, he denied, this is his denial. You're not being fair to him. Publish the exact question that you asked him. That I asked him that there's a militia operating in the castle. And he told me that no, there's no militia operating in the castle. You are being fair to him. That's just the fact I wanted to lay out. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No, that's fine. You know, so the issue I raise is that, look, if you look at the response from the office of the chief of staff, for example, that, we gave him a job to do with respect to retrieval of vehicles. And that is what led to him being assigned some offices at the place. And then even when he had finished his assignment, he stayed there and decided to use that state facility for the purpose. So I ask, you see, we bring things upon ourselves. What is it about retrieval of vehicles that the plethora of security agencies we have in this country, including the ones that we have created at the national security, cannot do? For which reason we go out there, go and bring in individuals, go and assign state facilities to them and ask them to do these things on behalf of the state. And when their job is over, we're unable to ensure that all the access we've given them to state facilities and all that are retrieved back to the state.
Fair question.
And then we look on for the things to develop up to this point. Is anybody being held responsible? So now the focus is on, are they militia? They're not. Do they have a disposition to violence? They are not. But the truth of the matter is that, look, if even the Ghana Scouts, I don't know if we still have Scouts in Ghana.
The Boy Scouts.
The Boy Scouts.
The Girl Guides.
If they decide to take out the staff of multimedia, it won't take them 6 hours to do that. So if you have a situation where there's a running battle between the group and the national security, and on 3 occasions, the national security is unable to kick them out, and that it has to take a reinforcement, joint effort. It cannot be just a group of some ideal unemployed young men and women. It cannot be. If the national security decides to do an evacuation at multimedia today, how many hours will it take them? So when we are told that there is an ongoing battle, and as all of you have alluded to, in the documentary, you hear the guy talking about and even making the claim that there is some envy. You know, that the national security is even envious of
They had
them.
a long-running
Yes.
battle.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's
Kweku said they had a long-running battle.
yes.
It's a fact.
That's a fact.
Yes.
It's a fact. With the national security.
Yeah, but this is not a battle of
No, but is Kweku,
Yeah.
No,
is
just-
Kweku allowed to just say that without providing evidence as you demand of the
No.
He says they had a long-running battle with national security.
You see what he's doing? That is why I'm helping what he means by battle.
So I'm
I don't mean exchange of
It's
fire.
not exchange of fire. It's not a battle of force.
Okay.
But you knew that.
Yeah,
Come on, come on.
He's just being mysterious.
I know because I am privy to the Chinese conversations. I know.
He's being mysterious.
So Randy,
for the record,
the question, yes.
You really didn't understand me to mean.
Okay, so the question that Kojo said Manasseh should have put out in full, which he sent to Ahin. This is it. Quote, "Good evening. I called earlier. I am doing a story on the I Group, an MPP vigilante stroke militia group run by Nana Reko Addo, aka Choman, a former bodyguard of President Akufo-Addo. I have information that the group operates from the Christianborg Castle. Some leaders of the group claim the president is aware of their operations there. I have spoken to Jubilee House source close to the president, who has denied the presence of the group at the castle and the knowledge of the president, but that's not the official response. According to the source, I will be happy to have the official response on the matter by close of tomorrow." And then this is how the official response comes. Quote, "The president has no knowledge of the alleged activities of this said group, let alone sanction their activities. My checks from National Security have revealed that no such group is operating from the castle," unquote.
What is
and
the
he
date?
put this information out.
What is the No, he didn't put out his question.
No, he put the information out.
No, I'm saying his question. He didn't put it out.
I don't
Okay.
think.
He also,
I don't think
no,
it
they are
makes any
critical.
difference.
No,
Sorry,
no,
it's
no,
Randy's
there
time.
is, I
It's
know.
okay.
He also
You
did
have
not
raised
tell
your
you the
question. Let's
date
have Randy finish.
on
Yeah.
which this conversation
I was
took
going to
place.
ask that question. That when did Ahin provide this answer?
Before the documentary.
This is around the 5th, 4th of March, I would suspect. Because as at the 6th of March, when I was driving out of the stadium in Tamale, I spoke to Manasseh on the phone on this same matter when he was asking the same question. So it will be around the same, way after the fact.
Okay. So way
And that is
after
why
the fact.
Eugene would tell you that there is no such group there.
Okay. So way after the fact. And then
So
he
your
provides,
contention is that at
then
this
he
time,
provides,
they had
Manasseh
been
provides
evicted.
evidence showing the group assembling at the place and moving to an occasion, an MPP occasion,
In
which is
December.
a state occasion.
In December.
Conference center.
In
You
December.
say it is in October that they were removed.
Yes.
And he shows you in December what they are
December,
doing.
yeah.
Then again, he shows you a party they are having in December. The explanation we have to that is that they made an application to have a party and
Application
they were
to who?
granted.
Museum and Monuments Board?
Yes, because the place is no longer a security zone.
No, I mean
In
they
actual
applied
fact,
to who?
some other
who did they
groups
apply
have
to?
held parties there.
Yeah.
But
Okay,
it's a
so
known
some
fact. People
events.
apply there,
Yeah,
do.
apply.
okay, so Randy, if you
Video
can finish,
shoots,
so we
etc.
can,
So-
we can terminate this.
Yeah,
So
so-
in March, if you ask him and he says no, you don't say that he has quote unquote told a lie.
Yeah.
Please proceed.
Yeah, because if at the time he gave the answer, they were not there, the answer is appropriate.
It is.
But it is also a fact that Manasseh did not just ask about a militia group. It was quite detailed.
Yeah.
And so he's mentioned the name of the group, the person, how it's associated with the president and all that. So it was detailed enough. But you see, so I mean, back to the issues. I'm saying that what led to this? We do things that creates problems for us in this country. And that's why I go to the fundamental issue. You want to retrieve government vehicles. There's a change in power. You want to retrieve government vehicles. With all the security agencies we have and what we have created, you need to go and get a private individual, assign him a state facility. And then when, per your own statement, his job is done, you do not ensure that he vacates the state facility and you take custody of the place. And you allow him. And this person goes on to have a running battle with his national security. And you're unable to evacuate him and his young boys and girls until there's a joint team to do so. You know, we need to tackle the fundamental issues.
Yeah.
Like I've said, look, this ruling, no matter how you look at it, it's going to help shape up things.
Okay.
Moving on, we might do things better. But the things that we do as politicians and political office holders, that creates some of these unnecessary problems, is what we must look at. Because in all of this, we are not holding people responsible for how they acted and how they've allowed, or how they allowed something like this to happen.
Yeah.
If government feels embarrassed by it, and I believe that it is that embarrassment, especially when it occurred around the Ayawaso thing, that led government to go to the National Media Commission. The basis for this embarrassment is the conduct of government's own appointees. And the focus should go there. I'm done.
Thank you very much. I'm supposed to change over. We have to go, but you're asking for a minute. I give you a minute. Somebody will ask for a minute, and then we may not. So I beg you.
No, give me.
One small minute. One small minute. Very small.
Okay, quick.
You remember in my earlier reference to the publication in the Daily Guide, I have retrieved it now, the 11th of June 2012, and you've read the first 3 paragraphs. If I can just, the paragraphs I was referring to. Choman said the group will complement the work of the security agents on election day, stating that his group will watch the ballot boxes with an eagle eye to prevent unscrupulous people from snatching them. The I Vigilante group, which has about 600 members, including males and females, is being sponsored by MD Moro, dealer in pharmaceutical drugs. So I just wanted to tie that knot. That indeed this group was set out to engage
and this
in
story in 2012.
Like the ballot box
this story in 2012, which labeled the group as vigilante, was not contested.
It was not contested. But can you tell us what has happened?
Sorry. Let's hear Kuku.
The Daily Guide report is also incontestable. Huh?
No, but it wasn't contested.
No, I'm saying the
It
report.
can be contested today.
No, it can.
2012 today, they can contest it. Okay.
But John Tia sent me a message
now
that
quickly, I'm told I have Suleiman Ibrahim. Thank you very much for joining us, Sule. Sule is the Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa, the sub-regional watch group, and helping journalists train, retrain, and to do the right things. Sule, I've heard you say that the NMC's ruling is confusing, is incomplete. What is confusing and what is incomplete? And the suggestion out there in the public also is that why are you guys giving an impression as if journalists are something gods? They don't make mistakes. If they make mistakes, they should admit. What's the big deal?
Well, something maybe to your last question, I think we don't seek to create that impression at all. We are all humans, and occasionally we would make mistakes. And when we do make mistakes, we have to be humble, accept them. Apart from that, if you remember something, when I had issues with, for example, number 12, which was something that was widely hailed, and I even knew that I was going to put out my views there against, what was a dominant position taken by society, I still went ahead to write about what my views were on number 12 as far as the journalistic aspects of it were concerned. So we certainly don't do that. And we've had an occasion as an organization to even have a project on monitoring ethical violations. And the whole exercise we conduct during elections around, using the use of abusive language and how the media are able to restrain people and so on and so forth, are all about making sure that we try as much as possible to also push the standards up. And we are not saying, and we would never say, that our media system is perfect and journalists are perfect in doing their job. So having said that, let me just quickly go on to the National Media Commission's ruling. And something I must say that after having read the document, on a number of occasions, my conclusion is that the NMC did a complete disservice to the nation and to particularly those of us in the media industry. And I say so because I've been listening to the conversation this morning, and because of the nature of the NMC's ruling, one cannot but go back to the initial debate that we had when the documentary was aired and when government, indicated its displeasure over the documentary. Now, if you take the NMC's ruling, after, the initial things about the preliminaries and the basis of the complaint and the objections that were raised against the GJ president, the chairman of the commission, and so on and so forth, the commission now says it sets out 3 issues for determination on the matter. And these 3 issues were: 1, what is a vigilante group? 2, when did the group exit the castle? And 3, did they manifest any acts of violence? Now, then the point number 2 is important in terms of when did they exit. One would have asked, why does it matter? And I think that in the commission's view, it mattered because the government's complaint had said, in the documentary, the producers had deliberately ignored the fact that the group had been evicted in October 2018. And so in the argument, the government position was, well, we had evicted them in 2018, and multimedia had said, no, it was after the documentary was produced. Now, again, fundamentally, the commission's ruling says the Minister for Information, after opening the case for the government, reiterated that the documentary did not contain any material facts and was full of exaggeration to cause, sensationalism. Now, one would have expected the commission's ruling to be detailed, to be explanatory, unambiguous, so that it would be a living document that journalists can make references to it, organizations such as ours can make references to it, to guide journalism practice in this country. Now, when the ministry or the government raised the issue of the documentary not containing any material facts, well, I was wondering, 1, was there a group operating at the castle, which was not, like a state agency or institution or whatever? And the answer is yes. 2, was that group the I group? The answer to this is yes. Has this I group ever, been portrayed or known to be a vigilante group, as we know vigilante groups? And the answer would be yes. Now, despite all this, the commission then concludes in determining whether the I group was a vigilante group or not. This is what it says. While the commission finds the presence of at the castle unacceptable, the group did not manifest any violent conduct to be described as a militia or a vigilante group. Now, the question that one will ask is, I know a group called the Bolga Bulldogs. I know a group called the Bamba Boys. I know the group called Azoka Boys. I know the group called Invisible Forces, Delta Forces, and so on and so forth. Is it the case? Is the NMC saying if a journalist should have a documentary about these groups, that documentary must show the people directly in violent conduct before we can describe them as a vigilante group? I doubt that is the case, because if you were to push that argument, in fact, it's almost like saying that until you see the military in combat, you shouldn't call them military. Because we all know what vigilante groups are and what they exist to do. But I'm not surprised that the government would take a position that appears to be defending this group in terms of they not being portrayed as a vigilante group. Indeed, the NBC not too long ago described its vigilante groups that we all know are vigilante groups as a group of NGOs. And if I'm right, the Deputy General Secretary did say so. So on both sides, in terms of the two main political parties, one wouldn't be surprised if you find each of them trying to defend and almost clean up or give a clean shave to these groups that we know are vigilante groups. The other point, and I heard Senior Brother Kweku make that point quite strongly, in terms of whether the use of the Ayawaso images, incident images, and so on, constituted anything unethical as far as documentary production is concerned. And the NMC says that, well, in terms of context, they didn't relate to each other. But something, that it is after the Ayawaso incident that the short commission was established. And as far as I know, the Short Commission was established not primarily to go into the weaknesses and deficits of our national security establishment or institutions and so on and so forth, but into these issues of vigilantism. You ask yourself, if there is no connection, how come a commission is set up after an incident such as the Ayawa Sultan to go into details of vigilantism and how they can be disbanded and so on and so forth. And then subsequently, the president also pushes for a bill on vigilantism. So if you put all these together, clearly the commission did not provide, submissions that would really guide our practice going forward in terms of responding to the questions that they themselves, have set out to respond to. Okay. What is a vigilante group? Okay. And the commission is saying, look, as far as we didn't see them in the documentary in any violent conduct, we couldn't have called them a vigilante group.
All right.
I mean, this certainly cannot be something that helps.
Suleiman, I'm very sorry, but we have spent quite some time. I thought we could be very brief with this issue, but unfortunately, this is where we are. Thank you very much. Suleiman Ibrahima is with the Media Foundation for West Africa, and I'm getting prompts to take a break quickly, but could you need some 30 seconds? Let's do that quick.
No, I mean, like Hall writes in The Friends of Voltaire, I may disapprove of what Suleimana says, but I will defend to the death his right to say so. That is what press freedom is about.
Thank you very much.
There's been a lot of talk about government and multimedia. Yes, we've had discomforts because we wanted to draw attention to the misleading narratives and misrepresentation. We believe that attention has been drawn, and we can engage in good faith.
And multimedia has put out a petition. It accepts the National Media Commission's ruling, but it disagrees with it. Thank you very much. That's how to build a democracy.
The decision.
You didn't make
You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. Okay, so this issue is taking too much of our time. So all of you asking for something extra to be done about it, I'm sorry, we can't continue. Okay. And Kojo succeeded in saying I shouldn't be hosting, and some of you are saying so. But I asked him the question when it was Samuel Kujeto. I was hosting here, and Kojo was producing me. Whatever happens, a Joy FM person will host the show.
That's right.
Anyway, okay, so let's get to AFCON. I'll read some of your messages. Sorry, we'll read some of them. Let's go to AFCON and why all the hue and cry about particularly the budgets. You were asking for information, like right to information law. And the minister comes, gives you the information, and suddenly all hell breaks loose. Why? What is the problem? Okay, so let's listen to Mr. Siama, the sports minister, Mr. Kwabena Woyemi, ranking member, youth and sports. Samuel Kujeto also spoke, but because he's here, we will not play his voice. Let's listen to the two people before.
6,365,033.84 was approved for the tournament comprising training tour, main tournament, and related activities. Now the actual expenditure, Mr. Speaker, emphasis actual expenditure, Mr. Speaker. An amount of $4,564,352 was expended from the training tour to the time Ghana exited from the main tournament. Mr. Speaker, now the breakdown, and here the details. Airfare, $924,168. Per diem for players, $187,050. Per diem for technical staff, $129,600. Per diem for additional technical staff, $90,750. Winning bonus for players, $95,405. Winning bonus for technical team, $347,207. Winning bonus for additional technical team, $177,000. That's $177,000. Accommodation, and here includes pre-tournament camping, and of course camping facilities. Also for the playing body, and of course the main tournament itself for members of the GA fields, some who were there, old players who were there, some of them Ghana Supporters Union, ministry officials, journalists, and of course members of parliament. And that amount is $1,143,509. Medicals across board, $44,574. Visa fees, $8,541. Internal transportation, $43,092. Incidentals, $42,057. So total is, as I said, 4565350. I repeat, 4564352. $4,406,000. So the difference here, of $635 million and $464 million will return to government chest. That's a difference of $1,079 will return to government chest. That is the difference.
What was presented to us today, apparently, to them, because we're also hearing other figures, that that was what was spent. And so we will do our further work in terms of oversight, and possibly by the close of the week, we'll come up with what we think are findings also. The worry is how items have been lumped up together. So we would want to know the breakdown of the figures, as was called by myself and then the other contributors, so that we can then situate in terms of what the minister himself actually stated, that he is for three things, and one of which is value for money, and then we all then can speak to it. We want these figures at least breakdown for us to then understand, what went into, for instance, the players, what went into those itemized line items. Those line items, about 6 of them. We would want to find out, what, by way of programs that have been outlined to be implemented, the figures associated with those programs and all that. That is what we do.
Right. You're welcome back. So let me quickly speak to one of the guys who is very fluent in this on this matter, and as far as the matters of sports are concerned, Gary Al Smith. Gary, I've heard you on this issue, and you speak to it in a manner that's so intriguing and yet baffling. What do we make of what the minister presented, the expenditure?
Well, thank you for having me. First of all,
Okay, have I lost Gary on the line? Hello? Okay, so Gary is out of the country. We are talking to him, and I suppose he's out of the country, right? Okay, so but we'll raise him again, and try and deal with that issue. But first, Randy. Okay, Gary's back. Hi, Gary.
Yes.
Sorry, we lost you. Yep.
Yeah, so I was saying that the minister put out the budget because, of a reaction that came from Ghanaians, really, to how the Black Stars came out of the African Cup of Nations, and the problem of having the team go and spend so much money, and people generally want to have an accountable system of the way the Black Stars, are financed, and so on and so forth. And so basically, the background is that before they had gone for the Cup of Nations, you might have recalled that there was a huge
hue and cry about, so how much are we taking there? People just wanted to know, so that when they came, they could also say that, all right, how much have we spent? And then we moved on with our lives. But because the budget had not been forthcoming before the team went for the tournament, this is why he gave the statement. As to the details, I think that the general reaction was one of disappointment because, it was too general, if you like. We didn't get enough specifics on a lot of things that were enumerated in there. And I heard you say in your introduction, the line items were a bit nebulous. That is the word I've chosen to use. They were quite grand and all-encompassing. And when you add 1 and 2, you are getting 4, that sort of thing. So I think that the general reaction was one of disappointment, Samson.
Okay. So you say the $6.3 million budget, $1 million. Is it a budget? No, it's an expenditure. Okay. Covered 9 categories of people. But the actual breakdown mentioned expenses incurred for only the players and technical team.
Yes.
Why should we be concerned about that?
First of all, the 6.3 million is the budget, and then the 4.5 is the expenditure.
Right.
Just to make that clear. So the preface of the minister's presentation, if you looked at it, suggested or said, actually, it didn't suggest, it said in plain terms that it covered the players, the technical team, members of the Ghana Football Association, members of the sports ministry, some officials of the Ghana Football Association, some of the officials of the sports ministry, Ghana League Clubs Association, retired players, coaches, and so on and so forth. There were 9 categories in all. So if this amount was spent on them, it was quite interesting and intriguing that all we saw on that itemized sheet were things relating to winning bonus for players, winning bonus for technical team, this for players, this for technical team, and so on and so forth. So that is one of the key questions that we need to ask. Okay. And let me just chip in that, as you may have mentioned or not, the Joy Sports team is putting together a petition to the ministry to that effect, because we think that the right thing should be done, and also not just for ourselves really, but for posterity, because unfortunately, a lot of the things that we saw happen in Egypt could have easily been avoided if we had followed some of the lessons of the past, notably the lessons of Brazil 2014 and the subsequent Jammeh Commission.
So what are you seeking in this petition? That he has explained expenditure for 2 categories and he's left with 7 more to explain. He should just explain that. Is that all?
You said he just explained that?
He's explained the expenditure for 2 of the 9 categories.
Yes.
You want, through this petition, to have explanation for the 7 others unaccounted for. Is that the case?
Yeah, that is just one of the 10 questions we have. We would treat it into detail on the Joy Sports link right after your show. But essentially, just to give a broad strokes of what we want, it is to get specifics for everything that was named in there, because on the basis of, I was in Egypt, several of our colleagues were in Egypt as well.
Okay.
On the basis of what we know, what we have heard, and what we have experienced with African Cup of Nations, we know that certain things went on, certain bills were paid that were not mentioned in the budget. Case in point, we know that the team usually gets appearance fees, but nobody has spoken about it, So once we have put out these questions, and hopefully we can get the Sports Ministry's PRO on the Joy Sports link, he can give us some answers. Because between yourself and myself, it's not between yourself and myself, is it? Because we are on national television. We do know that appearance fees were paid. Nobody has spoken about it. But once we question, we will try to do our journalistic duty to let people know that some of these fees were paid, and we will want to know why they weren't mentioned. If they were mentioned, how much, where did the money come from? Because, as you may know, the entire budget for the entire sports ministry, for the year 2019, and I'm talking about all the sports disciplines in Ghana, was 43 to 44 million Ghana cedis.
You mean youth and sports?
Thank you. Youth and sport. I sometimes forget that. Youth and sport. The Black Stars budget alone was $6.3 million, which is an equivalent of 79% of that 43 million Ghana cedis. So the big question is that, one, did we really use all that money from the sports ministry allocation? The information we have suggests that it is not. But we want to hear it from the minister himself to tell us that the money was got from so and so fund. Some sources have said that it was from the consolidated fund. If it is so, just tell us, you know.
You are also curious about this development that Ghana won just one game, but paid winning bonuses of over 965,000 for the players. So you want to know whether this means that each player got about $42,000.
Yes,
and you are concerned
past,
also
again,
because
it's instructive to note that past regimes have tried to explain. Of course, the more infamous one was the Kwesi Nyantakyi attempted explanation, which brought out the term coefficient, you know, and honorarium and so on and so forth. That became part of the lingo of Ghana football over the past 4 years. So if there were things like that, we would like to know how they were shared.
Is 42,000 too much?
Oh, it is an absurd. It is not too much. It is absurd.
Why?
If it is 42,000, it's absurd. You are giving winning bonuses of 42,000 at the group stage. Something. We are talking about Senegal, who were even in the final. Even they were given a presidential gift of $34,000. They had gotten to the final. Even they.
Don't we have predetermined figures for paying bonuses?
That's the point. So, you know, the interesting thing is that because we are talking about Mr. Isaac Esiama here, there is history to back up some of the claims. In one of our questions, actually, we asked that this same Mr. Isaac Esiama was able to negotiate in his own words, and the tapes are available, with the Black Stars team. You know what? In the last African Cup of Nations, you know how much he told us he was able to let them take, because of the economic situation, $5,000 for a winning bonus. So if only 2 years ago he was able to persuade the same players to take $5,000, how in God's name is it possible that they took, for example, assuming that this is what we know based on the simple mathematics that we make, that they took $42,000 or something other than that.
Okay.
It is quite irresponsible on our part, you know, and it's also very disappointing about some of our colleagues. I have to mention this as well, that some of our colleagues who used to champion some of these causes over the past few years have become incredibly silent, because we do know that the government flew some journalists there. And it's incredibly disappointing that my own colleague, Dan Kwekwe, who there's a tape going around of he and myself, you know, as it were, against Ibrahim Sani Dara in 2014 on GTV, you know, where we were going hard at Ibrahim Sani to let us know what the budget for the 2014 World Cup was. And Ibrahim Sani said it was a state secret, you know. And it's incredibly disappointing that Dan Kwekwe is on the other side, and he's unable to say some of these things. Some of the more renowned journalists of our country are also unable to say this because ostensibly the state was able to choose certain journalists and take them, refresh them, and house them. It is not on.
All right.
You know, and if we continue this culture, I fear that every 2 years we are going to get there.
Let's hope for some good results. Some good results from the petition that the Joy Sports team is putting together, and that's Gary Al Smith, international sports journalist. He's with the Joy Sports team. And Randy, so if I may narrow down what Gary, you know, the concerns he expressed, the entire sports ministry budget for 2019 is 43 million Ghana cedis. The AFCON budget alone was 6.3 million. That's 34 million. That's like 79% of all of that. Is that rare? Is that rare?
All right, Samson, thank you very much. And I have a preliminary issue on this one.
Yes, preliminary.
You know, and it is to Gary and the Joy team.
Okay.
If I heard him say that they're sending the petition to the Ministry of Youth and Sports, I advise that he sends it elsewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, he sends it elsewhere, because it's the Ministry of Youth and Sports that's provided this information. Now, to your question, I'm also happy that there are 2 members of Parliament here.
But elsewhere, where specifically?
Not thought about it yet, but not there.
Okay.
Yes.
Gary will certainly
and
call you.
when I finish with my presentation, you might appreciate why
Okay.
saying that. I'm also happy that we have 2 members of parliament here. Because in all of this, I think that parliament is failed in its oversight responsibility. And it's not just in respect of this, but in previous ones, leading up to this one. You know, and you showed a video of the ranking member, you know, asking for breakdown, asking for this. Look, the horse has bolted, and we now want to go and lock up the stable. That's what we're doing. Now, if you permit me, I'll just start by referring to some 2 issues, and then I'll get to this. This is my Joy Online, Joynews. NPP rejects sports minister's shoddy, dishonest AFCON 2015 budget. Says the minority in parliament has voiced their displeasure that government, without parliamentary scrutiny, spent 17.9 million cedis on the Black Stars during the recent AFCON 2015 tournament in Equatorial Guinea. Now listen to this carefully. Spokesperson on youth and sports, Isaac Kwame Esiama, told Joynews that the sports minister, Mahama Yariga, quote, exhibited complete incompetence and ignorance, end of quote, about proper financial administration. Isaac Kwame Esiama is the current minister.
Sure.
Okay. After weeks of public speculations, the sports ministry has eventually revealed that government approved about 17.9 million cedis to fund Ghana's participation in the AFCON 2015 event in Equatorial Guinea. Sports Minister Mahama Yariga revealed the figures while taking questions on the floor of Parliament on Wednesday. The minister had expressed unwillingness to reveal details of the budget before the tournament. This is 2015. However, his delivery has come under scrutiny after the minority rejected a budget they described as half budget. NPP MP for Etriman Punia, Isaac Kwame Esiama, says, quote, it lacks the spirit of sound financial governance. It is shoddy work because the minister did not indicate income and expenditure. This is the current minister speaking. He feels Parliament is being taken for a ride by the attitude of the minister, whom he deemed disrespectful. The MPP spokesperson revealed that on the 18th of December, the minority had asked, this tournament was played in January. So he revealed that on the 18th of December, that's before the tournament, the minority had asked for the proposed expenditure earmarked for the games. Parliament, he said, had been assured they would be provided details of the budget before the January 17 tournament, but this never happened. Then, the same Honorable Isaac Kwame Esiama, on July 4, 2014, said this, quote, as Ghanaians, we want answers as to how many public servants used state funds. This is after Brazil. The first one I read was after Equatorial Guinea, AFCON 2015. This is after Brazil, on the 4th of July 2014. Quote, as Ghanaians, we want answers as to how many public servants use state funds to go to Brazil. How much in total was spent on each supporter? How many officials government sponsored to Brazil? How much government spent on the so-called ambassadors? Why the government failed to pay the appearance fees before the departure as promised? How much the government gave to each supporter for accommodation and meals per day while in Brazil? And how much it cost the nation to airlift $3 million cash to Brazil? He was then minority spokesperson for youth and sports. Now, Samson, I was here with you when the government took the case to court to dissolve the GFA. You heard the words that were used to describe the GFA. The issue of lack of transparency and all those things. Now, this is the sports minister today. This is what he presented to Parliament. The same person who described Mahama Yariga, he says what? Mahama Yariga exhibited complete incompetence and ignorance about proper financial administration. I don't know what he has exhibited in view of what he has just sent in there. And he called that one a half budget. Now, why I raise the issue of Parliament is that, once again, he complains that then as minority, they were asking for the budget. They were assured that it would be presented before the tournament. It wasn't done. Now he has the opportunity of becoming the minister. the same things that he complained about, he is perpetuating them. Same thing. And now you have the minority also complaining. So Parliament that is supposed to have oversight over the executive, Parliament that is supposed to act on our behalf, a budget is presented. This issue of the 79% of the Ministry of Youth and Sports budget and all that. The budget for 2019 was presented to Parliament. And that budget will include Ghana's participation in AFCON. So how much was earmarked for Ghana's participation? And if there's a variation to that, what are the processes? But once again, Parliament allow them. And you have leadership in Parliament actually supporting. The budget of the Office of the President is brought to Parliament. The budget of the Ministry of Defense is brought to Parliament, even national security. But over the years, we have allowed this. And I'm saying that fortunately for us, the current minister was the minority spokesperson on youth and sports. This is what he had to say after Brazil. This is what he had to say after Equatorial Guinea 2015. These were the words he used to describe. Now, something. I have seen what he sent to Parliament. I am convinced beyond reasonable doubt that they are of dubious validity. And I will seek to prove that, if you allow me.
Do that quickly.
Okay. Now, first of all, Gary has made a point about the minister telling us about 9 different groups that they spent money on. Yet, in the breakdown, it gives us breakdown for only 3. It's not 2, 3.
Okay.
It gives us the playing body, technical staff, and additional technical staff.
Okay.
You get it? Okay. Now, allowances or per diem, however they call it, was paid to those other people. That is not captured here. So the 4 point something cannot be the actual figure spent. Because we have heard people from the football fraternity who have confirmed on your station, Asempa, that they were giving $1,000 each. There are journalists who've confirmed that they were giving $500 each. There are supporters who've confirmed that they were giving $400, and some said they were giving a top-up. How has that been accounted for here? It is not here. So how could a minister, on the basis of this calculation, say that this is the actual that was spent? Now, you raise the issue of the bonuses paid to players. That if you divide it by 23 players, it comes to 42,000. The qualification bonus that was paid to players for qualify, it's called a qualification bonus.
Right.
He even mistitled it. And it's a qualification bonus. So sometimes when you say the one match, it's a bit erroneous.
Okay.
If I can explain it. Okay. Now, in 2006, when we went to the Nations Cup, you realize that when we were booted out in the first round, we won one match, but we didn't qualify. Yet we paid a bonus for that one match. So there was a need to rethink the whole thing. That look, you pay bonuses for success. Now, the objective in playing in the group is to qualify out of the group. So it is possible to even draw 3 matches and qualify. Now, technically speaking, the team could not have won any match, but they would have achieved the rationale, the objective, which is to qualify. Would you say that because they didn't win a single match, they should not be paid a bonus? And if they won one match and did not qualify, will it make sense that you pay a bonus when the objective has not been achieved? So the issue is that since the objective is to qualify out of the group, by any way you qualify, whether you win 3 games, 2 games and a draw, 3 draws or whatever, you should be paid the qualification bonus. So that explains that. Okay. And that's just for the group stage.
Okay.
Now, for the group stage in Egypt, we paid $30,000 each to each player. It was paid in cedis. Checks were issued to them in Ghana. That's how much we paid.
But Gary was saying that this minister had negotiated in 2017 to get the bonuses to be paid, or that's different, winning bonuses.
No.
At $5,000.
No, that was for the 2017 tournament.
Okay.
But I'm saying for this tournament, what they have paid, what they paid, if you look at the figure given, divided by 23 players, suggests that each player was paid 42,000. What was paid the players for the qualification was the cedi equivalent of 30,000 US dollars. That's what was paid them. And those checks were given to them or their representatives here in Ghana. Now, they played 2 friendly matches. For those 2 friendly matches, they were paid 35,700 Ghana cedis. Those checks were paid in Ghana. Whilst they were in Dubai, the appearance fee that Gary raises, which does not appear anywhere in the minister's presentation. Samson, I submit to you that the players and officials were paid $20,000 each as appearance fee. It is not here. That money was paid to them in Dubai. So appearance fee was paid. $20,000 each. It's not here. What was paid for the qualification was $30,000, CD equivalent here. And another 35,700 CDs. Checks were picked by their representatives here in Ghana. That's what happened. Okay. If you look at the one for the officials as well, even the additional technical team, they were not paid winning bonuses. They had specific contracts, say a scout. We are taking you to go and scout so and so. You will be paid $5,000 or $10,000. You will take care of your accommodation and your meals, and then you'll be given a per diem. They were not paid winning bonuses.
Okay.
You know, so they had like specific contracts for a specific period and how much they were going to be paid.
Okay.
So this thing, based on all the things I've said, is of dubious validity. It doesn't add up.
So number one, Randy is very clear that you, the MPs, you are disappointing us as citizens in representing us in the manner you have allowed some of these things to happen. You may be in minority, so you say we too, you speak like Esiama when he was also in the minority. We complain, but we don't get. But is this the best you guys can do for us? Same question for Kojo.
Let me go to my standing orders. The minister came to the House under Order 72. That's the announcement the Right Honourable Speaker made. And on Order 72 reads, a Minister of State may make an announcement or a statement of government policy. Any such announcement or statement should be limited to facts which it is deemed necessary to make known to the House and should not be designed to provoke debate at this stage. Any member may comment briefly, subject to the same limitation. So the minister came under this order, and under Order 72, you cannot delve into details. The minister cannot also provoke debate and all of that. So you notice that our subsequent comments were very guided, else you will be ruled out of order. Now, what I had expected was that the following from the discussions, it was clear, I mean, and I said it during my contribution, that the minister's statement, there was so much that had not been explored. We had so many questions. We do not, for example, even know how many supporters were sent to Egypt. We are hearing of procurement breaches, a company called White Oak and all of that. I raised all of these matters that have not been addressed. We don't have breakdown. If you tell us additional technical staff, who are they? Why should we have an additional technical staff from the... So I expected that the speaker...
Is he not assured that you provide the details?
I expected that the speaker in his ruling, or after the whole presentation and the limited discussions as the standing order requires, there should have been a subsequent order or consequential orders, as we call it, to either the sports committee or for a further inquiry to be made. So I will concede that clearly there are shortfalls, and even we as members of parliament would not say that we are satisfied about how this matter has been addressed. And we are going to push, but I just wanted to explain that because of how the minister came under Order 72, you can't do much.
No, that's not even my point.
In terms of the interrogation.
Before and after.
It's how over the years,
before,
you have allowed the Ministry of Youth and Sports to go and spend before they come and tell you, because I don't even know why we're talking about a budget when you've gone to spend the
it's an expenditure.
Yeah, I'll come to that. So,
and I read Esiama lamenting about 2015.
Fair point. Parliament will have to sit up, and I will concede that we can do better in terms of oversight.
So particularly the minority, you are failing your constituents and the citizens at large, as far as this matter is concerned.
You see, again, I will go back to the constitutional arrangement. The records will show that we made similar demands. I mean, the Honorable Kobi Woyome, the Honorable Minority Leader, Mr. Haruna Idrisu, I mean, week after week, we demanded the budget before the tournament. It did not come. After, I recall as recent as 2 weeks ago, the Honorable Ras Mubarak demanding details on the expenditure. So I will concede that Parliament has not been up and doing, but it's because of the constitutional
arrangement. Nkrumah is working on the implementation of the Right to Information Act. Maybe it will benefit you guys too.
The overbearance of the executive, you know, where the executive is simply too strong, and really this hybrid system. I mean, earlier in the week I was at the CDD event, and I did lament.
That's why you said they should increase the MP's common fund.
No, what I said was that it should be scrapped. We don't need the MP's common fund. That it is contributing to that perception that a member of parliament is for development.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm sure you agree with me. You know, so
Randy is pointing us to lessons and failures, and I can see that you have the Jamefe Committee, you know, report with you. What do you want to draw our attention to?
Samson, when you read the Jamefe Commission report, again, it becomes evident that this country is not learning lessons. All the things, virtually all the things that the Jamefe Commission said we shouldn't do.
That you, the political leaders, are failing us, or that this country is not learning lessons. Don't generalize and bring everybody in. When it is journalists, you separate us, so we too will separate you.
I must concede. I must concede on that. I have here the white paper on supporters, for example. The white paper which was issued on the 1st of June 2015 under the seal of President John Dramani Mahama. Says government also accepts the following recommendations of the commission.
Right.
1. In the present state of multiple supporters groups, supporters must seek their own sponsorship to participate in tournaments, and the state should, as a matter of policy, not directly employ public or state funds to airlift, accommodate, and feed supporters. 2. Where the government deems it necessary to sponsor supporters, there should be a clear policy and criteria for selection of supporters to attend such tournaments, to ensure transparency in the selection on the premise that the various supporters groups should come together to form a single national group.
But even the first point, did you need a Jamefe committee to commission to say this? Because this country, we have made this point over and again. What is government business in mobilizing a group of people and paying them money, accommodation and everything per diem to go and support the teams?
Brilliant point.
It's a practice in Africa.
It's a practice in Africa.
In Africa, yes.
So you come back to the minister's budget to parliament and supporters. We know, we're hearing figures of about 500, 600. We hear that they initially received $400 when they arrived, and then subsequently received another $400, so about $800 per supporter. All of that is not here. So I agree with Randy Abe, who is the expert on these matters, that this budget presented to Parliament is
sorry, just one second. Randy, what do we know about the criteria for selecting supporters? Who is a supporter?
Well, what I know is that, you know, the two options the Jamefe Commission gave. One was that don't do it at all. The second one was that put them together.
I think that was
supporters
groups. That appears to be what has been done now.
In this case.
But that they now go as Ghana Supporters Union.
But the selection should be
in terms of
transparent.
the transparency of the criteria, the selection criteria and all that, we don't have information.
Okay.
Maybe exists, but we
all right. So what other lessons?
The other lesson, page 146 of the report.
We need to repeat them even though we don't see
this time I'm reading from the report itself, page 146, on Africa Cup of Nations tournament. CAF sponsors national team contingent of 30 persons to the AFCON tournament. CAF, the controlling body of African football, in its wisdom, has been able to determine the number of players and other support persons, taking into consideration the availability of funds. The contingent of 30 takes care of the following category. That's players, number 23, coaches, 2, management or technical support, 5. Where the tournament is to be hosted outside Ghana, additional support staff of 5 should be included and sponsored to include the following: players, 23, coaches, 2, management, 5, technical support, 5. The constitution of management and technical support should be as defined in this report. We violated this. We breached this. So this additional technical staff, additional technical staff.
Randy says this particular recommendation by the Jamfe Commission of Inquiry is not practical.
But the Jamfe Commission invited all the experts. They took evidence from GFA, the National Sports Authority.
No, the only point I'm making is that it is not practical. But you see, they make reference to what CAF provides.
Yes.
But you realize that when it gets to
and then they added 5.
When it gets to FIFA, the number increases.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a separate. The Jamfe Commission makes a separate recommendation for FIFA.
So could you? How are you feeling on your oversight duties for your constituents as far as matters like this are concerned?
Quick comment on this commission report, and I think it's important we make the point quite clearly that these are recommendations. In fact, even the government of the day has the right to disagree with it. And that's why you find a government, white paper. So it's not as though the recommendations in the are the views of the review bench of the Supreme Court. It's not. And as is rightly being mentioned by Randy, there are some parts of it that even those who are experts, as Sami rightly says, will disagree with. But I think the bigger issue here is what Randy raised earlier, that how are we bringing as much transparency to this sports-related accounting as possible. Quite recently, when this Drop the Chamber campaign started and people were expressing their views of Parliament, I wasn't surprised, but I was disappointed because it is obvious that we have not done enough to let the people who we represent understand that we are really doing a good job in their interest in the chamber and at the committee levels. And that is why you find people come up with all the various levels of vitriol, etc., when it comes to MPs or things that are related to MPs. And it's because in a matter like this, yes, the committee, and I don't think even the Speaker has to worry giving consequential orders, though he can. 72, under which he came, allows him to make a statement, which I'll commend, that he was proactive. He came there to make a statement on the financial policy related to this particular tournament. But of course, that limits it.
I'm sure he was proactive. We kept demanding it.
He came under 72. Weeks. It wasn't a question. That's what I mean.
After weeks. Okay.
It wasn't a question.
Yeah, not a question.
Now, what I'm saying is that there are many other avenues. Members of Parliament, like Sami, in fact, like myself and all others, can file questions, urgent questions or normal questions, demanding the further and better particulars, some of which are being raised here. Interesting analysis and numbers being put here that there were some payments made outside this, etc., etc. I think that beyond, for example, what my very good friend Gary and his team want to do by making a petition, I don't know where they want to take that petition. There are also avenues where members can ask questions. The Select Committee on Sports itself, which is, got a chairman and very honorable members of Parliament, can invite the ministry. And nobody is stopped from carrying such proceedings, whether it's live on television or whatever, and request to get a further and better breakdown of the numbers there, so that clarity is provided on some of these matters, and it informs future policy discourse. Some of these things, especially when it comes to sports, will not be resolved by just one event here and there, because Ghanaians, as we're very tied to our sports today. Depending on who is in power, makes different considerations when it comes to our sports, and once the tables flip, the considerations also look the other way. So I think for me, we can do a lot better in advancing our cause to get the further and better particulars, and we should adopt those channels. Those who are MPs ask the questions in Parliament, file the urgent questions and the standard questions. The committee itself can invoke its powers and invite the minister and request for some of. From here, my committee has called us in Koforidua to come and answer questions on the Right to Information Act. So I'm going to Koforidua from here. The committee is invoking its powers of supervision, and I think that same can be done so that we have more details on some of these matters. As it now,
just a little one.
Yeah.
On the issue of Parliament, what I'm asking Parliament to do is to stop something that has been done.
But you see, Randy, there I slightly disagree.
Yeah.
The budget of the ministry is brought to Parliament.
Yes.
Parliament approves the budget and the activities that the ministry says it will undertake.
Right.
There are two windows that allow the ministry to spend outside what has even been approved.
Right.
One, if the funding is not coming from Parliament.
Yes.
Parliament cannot therefore get into that matter.
Yes.
And two, even if the funding is coming from the capitation grant, but it is on unplanned, unbudgeted expense item, a contingency item. Of course, the Constitution has provisions on how those ones can be handled.
Yes.
But even for that one, You might as
You
well.
mean consolidated fund?
Yes.
Not capitation grant.
No. Consolidated fund. If I say capitation, please forgive me. So you might as well go to Parliament and get approval for X. Go and spend X plus 2. And then subsequently come back and say, well, these were the reasons for which we exceeded and went into contingency, etc. So there I slightly disagree. But the principle...
How then does this conform to, say, GIFMIS?
GIFMIS is only an accounting system.
Yes.
The question you're asking is, how does this conform to the Public Financial Management Act?
Yes.
And the Public Financial Management Act will put a structure around you, but will give you room that when you have those exigent conditions, you can make some excesses, but you have to regularize it.
Okay. So Honorable Kojoba supports your point, and these are people within the sports fraternity, supports your point that once the minister's budget takes care of the broad, budgetary allocation, that's what it ought to be. But the question is, if there are no any prior checks, for example, is it sound, as people are raising, that the AFCON budget alone is taking as much as 79% of the entire budget for the ministry?
Those are policy questions. Those are policy questions that you would want to ask the one who frames the policy, that why do you choose that for all sports and sports development, you spend 70 or 75% of the sports budget on a particular type of sports or
right.
Then I'm sure they'll tell you that, listen, it's because football is the passion of the nation and it's the kind of sport within the bigger bracket of sports that Ghanaians are so passionate and excited about. But those are policy questions. For me, the substantive issue is this. Yes, we need some more transparency in building our democracy, especially when it comes to accountability on matters like this. But there are avenues and there are forums. While I may even disagree on prior scrutiny of some of these matters, beyond what the budget statement has done, I agree that the committee, members of parliament, even persons who want to petition other third parties can ask for better and further particulars and further informed policy.
Kuku, we have seen the budget by other countries, including Kenya, and you can see very modest spending. Modest spending, not up to less than,
Less than $2 million.
Yes, that they are spending. And why can't we do the same?
Well. I saw that somewhere. I don't know if it's authentic. How do we verify that?
Yes,
I saw it.
Granted,
no, I will not
granted it is.
I won't waste time on that. We haven't checked with those governments or countries and their appropriate institutions who are in charge of those things. We just seen something, somebody's put something out there, and everybody is chasing it. I won't chase it.
It's like
I'm
the
sorry.
12 projects of David Ajayi. Put it out there, everybody's following it.
See, anyway, when it comes to football matters, Randy Abbey is one of the people I defer to. I won't debate, I will not contest. And I'm not going to do that today. But I think out there, and I'm not referencing Randy, out there is what we see. It's premature ejaculation. It's too early. See, we are told the minister went to parliament not to answer a question. Of course, there had been prior requests for those things to be done, even before they went to the tournament. And I remember on this program, it came up slightly. And I said, in principle, I want transparency, so I would want the budget published. But we've been educated here. The standing order, he went under 72. I have the Hansard, a draft Hansard here. I've seen what everybody said. Indeed, there was a gentleman, the one who spoke after him, Mr. Kofi, is it Ochre? No. Somebody spoke after him. After the minister. He was trying to audit. Yeah, I think that's his name. Ochre Ajekumo or something. He tried, and the speaker redirected him that we are dealing with standing order 72. So you can't do that. And in any case, even your request, the audit process which will be done eventually is not mutually exclusive with this one. But this is what Parliament is starting with. So let the man give us the details. This is what he's put there. It's subject to verification and auditing. Everything is put here. In fact, the minister himself indicated that this is like virtually an interim report and that he would have to submit a final, a more comprehensive report to the House. Am I right?
But why should he be allowed?
No, he said he will let the
Why should he
normalization committee.
Yes.
Yeah, he was talking about the tournament.
But why should he be allowed to be
report.
saying that when we have a record of him
Oh, I'll come there.
scrutinizing and insisting that this is the wrong way?
That was a good exercise by Randy. If I had done it, people would say equalizer, Mr. Equalizer. But that was a fantastic thing. I keep saying recollection of history, especially with relevance, it's important. It is how to move this country forward in many ways. So I have no problem with that. Indeed, I was reading the same Hansard. At the time, he was saying that what the other side were saying, and today what they are saying, it was a fantastic exercise of recollection Randy did. And all those ministers, MPs and things should always know that people will go back and recollect the things they see. But the key point I am making is that at this stage, really nothing has gone amiss. Because whatever has gone amiss is discoverable through the appropriate auditing processes. Okay, the normalization committee, did they talk? Because they were supposed to have made a
Okay,
press
so the Kenyan figure is correct. I don't know which other official sites.
I'm not sure you should waste your
Okay.
time on this.
Yeah, it's correct.
You see, there are about 8 countries. I've seen the list.
Yeah.
You sent it to us, your research.
Yes,
team.
I received this too. Yeah.
But you see,
The normalization committee was expected to send a report
it
to
says,
the
Mr.
parliamentary
Speaker,
committee.
as I stated earlier, a detailed tournament report
Yeah.
is to be provided by the normalization committee by
Right.
26 July
Yes.
Nairobi.
2019, after which major recommendation. Okay, so they were
Yes.
not to make a public.
No, to the committee.
I got it wrong.
And that will not include the accounts because the normalization committee was not responsible for that.
Yes, but the ministry will certainly.
Yeah, that's why the minister took this.
Yes, but Randy, these figures and account, it's very preliminary. You know that. It will be subjected to verification.
Yeah,
To auditing.
I get the point you're making. My point is that
Federation
when the minister is going to address parliament and he goes there and he makes emphatic statements and he gives a certain breakdown. For example, if you look at what he claims was paid the players,
Yes,
he omits the figures, just don't add up.
Yeah, but is that not why we have verification and auditing?
Yeah, but
That's what we have.
But it doesn't prevent us from pointing it out.
No problem. That's why, you see, when it's people like you who know football are talking, I defer. But out there, it's not just Randy Abbey talking.
Right.
So many things are being said and done, like was done previously. And I'm saying that when it comes to verification and auditing, we know the appropriate bodies that will do it. Look, indeed, Parliament still has the opportunity even to pose a question. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There's the possibility of a member of Parliament putting up a question
yes.
for the minister to come back.
An urgent question.
An urgent question.
Yeah.
Go through the.
That is why I'm saying that
Or a
there's
half-hour motion.
That's right.
Several options.
There's several options. So really, it's too early for the kind of noise going out there. And to be honest with you, if you didn't like what was done to somebody previously, then you also be careful how you're going to go about it today. That's my view. Okay?
But do you really think, as a nation, we can afford this?
Look, I'm a football fanatic, soccerholic. I don't give a damn. Oh, jeez. Be careful.
Okay, that's not radio friendly. And
I am apologizing.
Yeah, that's okay.
Please. Well, people, this is a disaster. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
There are many others who would say that
People should
without being
I'm-
prompted.
It's embarrassing.
By themselves.
My
Thank
kids
you.
are watching.
Thank
actually,
you. Yeah.
with their mother.
It's
And
a fine
I'll be in
gentleman.
trouble today.
Okay.
But you see, the point I'm making is that for me, the state investing in sports, especially football, I have no difficulty with. Even though if I read the Hansard and other things, people are asking for private sector to be brought on board in order to complement what the state does. I have no problem at all with
Among
that.
other reasons, that is the biggest platform to advertise the country.
Yes, so I have no problem with that in principle. It's the transparency and accountability
Okay.
that we should focus on, whether the monies we are giving to them are being properly applied.
Okay.
And of course, we pray and hope that they will bring success. Because you see, sometimes when there's success, people don't even ask for accountability. It's like the political parties and their campaigns.
Okay.
When they win elections, nobody
Yeah.
asks where the money
Where
went.
the money went. Yeah.
It's when they lose that people wonder whether you didn't chop or you chopped. You get a point. So to be honest with you, I think it's too early. We should wait I will encourage a member of parliament to ask a question, bring the minister back so that some of these outstanding issues that we are raising can be dealt with. Subsequently, the Ministry of Youth and Sports accounting processes must go to the Auditor General for it to be audited. The Auditor General's report will come back to Parliament and the Public Accounts Committee. It will be examined. So really, it's too early, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And something, it's interesting that page 68 of the General Commission report makes the point Randy is been making about Parliament. It says that the Commission is of the view that the constitutional framework that governs the three arms of states allocates the legislative arm of government dual role of A, putting a seal of approval to the executive's budget to fund activities of state, including sports, B, carrying out a watchdog role in respect of the activities of the executive. Accordingly, the Ministry of Youth and Sports should cooperate with the particular subcommittee on youth, culture and sports in the fulfillment of the committee's constitutionally mandated watchdog role.
It came from the contingency vote. This budget, that's where it came from.
That's why I was alluding
for the
to the
AFCON.
fact that
Yes, for AFCON.
That's why I was alluding to the fact that it's not everything that you would say is necessarily in breach of appropriation.
Exactly. So there should be institutionalized a regular briefing session between the Ministry of Youth and Sports and the Parliamentary Subcommittee within the rules of the standing orders. A small point to make about, you see, these issues of tickets, inviting groups to these tournaments. I'm beginning to get the impression, and Randy, you are the expert, that the Ministry of Youth and Sports is now using this opportunity to, as it were, buy silence and, you know, I mean, no. Do you know that? No. Do you know? No. Do you know that, Randy?
Can't believe me.
Randy, do you know that? Do you know that the minority caucus was offered the opportunity to go watch the team? We have to say that no, we didn't think that in principle it's a good idea. That just
are you suggesting no MP?
No, so it was just.
I saw the ranking member.
So we said that. We said the youth and sports.
But that's important information you should disclose.
So we said the youth and sports committee should go.
Yeah, so we declined. Members of the minority.
So we declined.
Because somebody sent me a text to ask you whether you were not offered a slot each.
Yes,
and whether you utilized it or not.
No, we declined. We were offered and we declined. And it's the same. It's the same thing. Gary is complaining about, you know, colleagues in the media fraternity who, because have gone quiet. You know, if we had also accepted it, I'm sure that many may not have found their voices. No, I'm saying we said that the Youth and Sports Committee.
But they are members of the party.
Yes, that one is a long-standing practice.
Yes.
But each MP.
This time, a new trend was emerging.
Is it true that each MP
all right, gentlemen,
was given a slot one?
But we declined it. Yes, that's the point I'm making.
Okay, this is where we draw the curtains on this particular subject matter, and we take a break. When we return, we will be asking whether or not the police has, in fact, cleared or exonerated Mr. Bisu on the Anas Galamsey fraud investigations or expose. And why is Martin Amidu so worried about the development? We'll be right back. We have some 30 extra minutes to exhaust that issue as much as we can. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. Some of your messages. Musa Abato in Kumasi says that, I suppose those who are calling for the special prosecutor to probe the matter because the explanation so far by the minister is not adding up. This is what I call leadership crisis. Okay, so you have gotten to an issue we are about to look at. Wisdom Amano says, honestly speaking, the parliament has to be dissolved and the judiciary should ensure past and present ministers of youth and sports are prosecuted. Judiciary doesn't do prosecution. Okay, so is it Amani or Amana? says, I hope the government will not set up an inquiry into the $4.5 million and clear everybody of wrongdoing. Okay, wrongdoing. Emmanuel Kingsley Basal says that Isaac Isiama is now doing exactly what he was fighting against. Kofi Mike says, Ghanaians, shine your eyes. These politicians don't care about us. In fact, the order of priority are as follows. 1, their stomach. 2, their family. 3, their political parties. And 4, Ghana. Okay, so they care about Ghana. Samuel Abuaje Jabba says, from day one, this... okay. Don't personalize stuff. Sorry about that. I can't be a conveyor belt for that message. So proceed. Let me read another one. Okay. So Selikem sends a message, and Selikem says the I Group on their website said they are a security company. Checks from the Interior Ministry showed the group was illegal. That makes them a militia group. Simple. Oh, really? Citizen Dennis says, good morning to you and your panelists. Could you mention that an Afrobarometer report points to the fact that that confidence in the media is waning? Let him also know that press freedom under their tenure is at its lowest ebb. Okay, you know that statement by Charles Rekubrobe is disputed by many, many others. We will discuss that matter, God willing, next week. And Kojo should be here. All right. So there was a report this week that said that Mr. Bisu, an appointee in the Jubilee House, who was secretary to the Interministerial Committee fighting Galamsey, but you know he resigned that position after the Anas expose that sought to implicate him in that issue. And special prosecutor was petitioned. Somehow, the understanding now is that some ministers, or the minister in charge of environment, or also the interior minister, also asked the police to investigate the same matter. Martin Amidu is so unhappy about it, and now the police say, the CID say, their investigation didn't find the gentleman to have done any wrong. I start with you on this, Kuku. Why should Amidu be disturbed? Is he the only one allowed by law to investigate matters of corruption?
Not exactly. Mm-hmm. But he's the only one who was petitioned by Tiger Eye, a key player in this whole matter. They did investigations, put together a documentary. They are in possession of the raw footage. Can you draw the attention? And they chose to petition the office of the special prosecutor, which is a creature of law. And they did this somewhere February 2019. That's 27th February or so. It was after that apparently the minister that is the chairman of the Interministerial Committee, Professor Frimpong Boati, requested the Interior Minister to ask the police to investigate in a letter dated, I think, March 2nd, 2019. At that point in time, Tiger Eye were cooperating with the Office of the Special Prosecutor to deal with the issue. And indeed, as the Special Prosecutor himself has indicated, he told the police that I'm seized with this matter and I'm dealing with it. So perhaps stop your duplication. It isn't as if you won't get different state agencies investigating the same matter. A source at the CID, when he was talking to me, said, look, what's my beef? Number one, both Yoko and CID were investigating them at the same time. Some of the issues were overlapping. So what's the big deal? I said, well, in this case, the principal actor, that is the investigating body, Tiger Eye, had declined your offer for them to cooperate.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you saying
that
Tiger Eye did not submit anything to police
Absolutely
and did not
nothing.
cooperate with them?
Absolutely nothing. They told the police.
So what did they do exactly?
They told the police that we are unable to cooperate with you in this instance because we are already at the office of the special prosecutor. And in any case, don't forget, there's a track record of Tiger Eye police collaboration over the years. So it isn't as if there was any problem. But they said that in principle, look, we've sent this matter here. We will not be working on 2 levels. We have sent it to a particular office. The office has fortunately accepted the challenge to interrogate the issue. So thank you for your interest. Then the police decides to proceed with their own independent investigations without Tiger Eye's involvement. And that's why they are challenged. If you read, see, and what all this matter, you see the police send their report to the Minister of Interior. This is 29th May 2019. There's the full report here. And apparently the lawyers for Charles Bisu wrote to the police requesting a report because they thought they had finished. Okay. So the police, in a letter dated July 2019, it just says July 2019, sent to their lawyers, Charles Bisu's lawyer, our own good friend, Yaopon, because the letter is addressed to him. And it is subsequent to this that the public got to know that something is going on. The police, in their own report, make it clear. If I can do a, see, they say the comments, the final comments, is signed by Isaac Kenyaboa, Commissioner of Police, Director General Administration. He says, at the time of compiling this report, the Chief Executive Officer of Tiger IPI, Anas Arimeyo Anas, had failed to report to the police to assist in our investigations, despite several efforts to get him to assist.
Failed or declined? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, they're wrong. He declined, and he told them direct. He also has not provided the unedited footage of the documentary to the police. Moreover, the key witness in the case, Yao Ben, is not available to assist in the investigations to substantiate the claims of bribery against the respective suspects. Strenuous efforts were made to contact him on his known telephone number, but the number was always off. The Chief Executive of Tiger IPI, Anas Arimeyo Anas, via telephone, indicated that he is not prepared to cooperate with the police because he had filed a petition with the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Okay? And the police themselves admit that in the absence, their conclusion is based on the fact, on the evidence available to them, minus the raw footage and testimony by Tiger Eye.
Okay, so that we are sure the publication did not mislead us, what did they then say? In the absence of Tiger Eye and Ben and all of them coming together, what is their conclusion?
Well, the one they sent to the lawyers.
Yes.
Let's see.
Did they say he's cleared? Did they say he's exonerated?
This is what what they sent to the lawyer.
Right.
Lawyer said, the investigations primarily relied on the documentary and other sources as already indicated. Anas Arimeyo Anas failed to avail himself to assist in investigations and also provide a copy of the unedited version of the documentary. Don't forget, he had given that to the special
prosecutor.
He said he had already filed a petition with the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Moreover, the key witness in the case, Yaben, is not available to assist in the investigations to substantiate the claims of bribery against the respective suspects. Strenuous efforts were made to contact him on his known telephone number, but to no avail. At the conclusion of investigations, based on the available evidence, none of the suspects was found to be culpable for any offense. So the police CID investigation had a huge deficit, very huge one, big gap there. You didn't have the raw footage.
None of them.
Yes.
None of them have been found culpable.
Yes, of any offense. That's what they are saying. You see? Could you just relax?
No. Okay, he says wait, let him finish.
See, my point is this. I've been talking to some of the police sources and things. And their view, so we didn't say we've cleared them. We didn't use that. We didn't say we've exonerated. But look, I have very limited education. The last paragraph I read.
Not culpable.
They don't find them culpable.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that they did not have the opportunity to do either. Find them culpable or non-culpable.
Yeah.
And that is why that whole exercise was a sheer waste of precious time and space. Particularly when another statutory institution is seized with it and the available evidence. Charles Bisu and his people have already gone to the Office of Special Prosecutor.
Yes.
Also, they are cooperating. So really, if I were the CID, I would have pulled out and allowed one institution to deal with the matter. Now, unfortunately, because of their persistence in proceeding without enough grounds, they've come out with something. They didn't put it in the public domain, though. They gave it to the lawyer. I'm not sure. I don't know if the lawyer put it out. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But we are journalists. We intercept everything every day. So I don't have a problem with the fact that it came out. But it has brought up a certain collateral.
The lawyer will definitely give it to the client.
Exactly.
And it's in the client's interest to publish.
Yes. But if you read the full report, see, there's a part. You listen to this. This is the section on Charles Bisu, paragraph 24. It says, in a statement on caution, suspect Charles Bisu stated that he is a presidential staffer and secretary to the Interministerial Committee. He said he had not received monies as consideration for the discharge of his duties or to circumvent laid down procedures of the committee. Neither has he been corrupted in any way. He said he had watched the documentary in question and stated emphatically that he never authorized Andy Owusu to collect any money on his behalf. Neither has Andy Owusu brought him money in consideration for any official work to be carried out. He also said that he saw in the footage a hand handing over cash to him, but he cannot recollect the occasion.
I love that part.
You want me to repeat?
Yeah, repeat it. I love that.
He said he saw in the footage a hand handing over cash to him, but he cannot recollect that occasion and did not know the exact amount. He said he said he did not also see the person's face. He only saw a hand, which makes it difficult for him to recollect the occasion. No, to be fair to him, he's talking here of the footage.
Yes, yes.
He, however, stated that Mr. Ben Intribusiaku, as wound to me, had earlier told him that he would send his personal assistant, Andy Owusu, to bring him some money to him as his contribution towards an MPP regional program that was held in the Western region. That he remembers receiving some money from Andy Owusu under the impression that the money was coming from Chairman Bernard Intribusiaku and nobody else. There are many, everybody's things here. But in any case, Tiger petitioned the special prosecutor, I think, on two people, Charles Bisu and Andy Owusu.
Okay.
But I realized that the police widened the scope to bring in some others. So they have about 9 suspects they were dealing with.
Just hold on. Could you wanted to come in?
No, perhaps I use this as my substantive.
All right.
I have very little to say on this matter. So I agree with Kweku in the initial analysis, and I depart with him in the end when he talks of
the special prosecutor feels it's an interference.
Yeah. But let me explain to you why. And I think some questions must be raised for all of us to understand. Kweku has an expression that he uses, that sometimes we set up our own fallacy. Then we invite everybody to come and interrogate that fallacy. And we spend a lot of time interrogating something that really isn't there. I suspect that this whole brouhaha is because of some of the media narratives that were going around that Mr. Bisu has been exonerated, cleared. And the impression that some have created that it therefore means that the special prosecutor's investigation is now
redundant.
That is why we are going through all of this. Because from the little I have seen, this is a storm in a teacup. And I explain to you why. Tiger did its documentary. and proceeded to petition the Office of the Special Prosecutor to investigate 2 persons on suspected acts that relate to corruption. Government, and I read out the government statement, even held, as part of our press briefings, commented on it. And I remember the famous unedited footage became a big brouhaha. And government, which set up the interministerial committee, as an interested party, first of all, welcomed the work that Tiger had done. I think sometimes people edit out all of these things. Welcomed it. And said any effort that is aimed at helping us win this fight against Galamsey is welcome and we support it. I sent the video, in fact, my raw unedited video to Kweku.
Yes, because we had a little problem.
Yes, we had a little problem with it. I sent it. That we have welcomed it, we have commended, but it was all cut out. No problem. Then we proceeded to say that government will have it investigated. And of course, having it investigated, we'll have to use the raw, unedited footage. I proceeded to say that the appropriate state agency, and I remember mentioning 2.
That's right. That's what our problem was.
It may be IOCO, it may be police CID, whichever is the appropriate agency, government will have it investigated using the raw, unedited footage. Later, the story was that I said people should bring government the raw, unedited footage, but put that aside. But why should government be interested in having it investigated? Because government has set up an interministerial committee to do a job. We have seen on television an allegation and a narrative that suggests that the secretary and perhaps some other persons may be involved in undermining the whole effort. It scares us. So the interministerial committee, through Professor Frimpong Boateng, wrote to police CID, never mind the Office of Special Prosecutor Investigation, that listen, look into this matter and tell us what we must know. And you would see from the details that they were looking at even about 9 people, some of the top brass of persons who were associated with the work. Not just Mr. Bisu, who by then I think had on his own said that he was stepping aside so that he wouldn't interfere with the OSP.
So Professor Boateng will be the complainant to the police in this case?
He indeed was, on behalf of the interministerial committee.
But he directed it through the Minister of Interior.
Yes. Yeah. And so you notice that when the response was coming, it came through the Ministry of the Interior, and none of it was put in the public domain.
So the Ministry of the Interior is the complainant to the police on the matter?
No. I mean, the IMCI is the one that routed through the Ministry of Interior, which is a member of the committee, to the police that, listen, look into this and tell us what we must know. For example, are there some other persons who must be asked to step aside? Can this fight? And today, if you look at the topic you put there, the actual topic you put there is what? What next for the fight against?
So
what you advertised to us earlier, was what next for the fight against Galamsey. Okay. This is a question. This is a question that the IMCI also sought.
CID clears Bisu in Anas Galamsey fraud. What is Amidu's beef?
No, the earlier one that was, I think,
that was still in the draft.
Yes. And I'm saying that is a very valid question about what next. What do you do with this whole IMCI and other things? It's in that light that the IMCI, through its chairman and routed through the Interior Ministry, asked the police to investigate. The police investigated 9 people. As Kweku is suggesting, the special prosecutor is investigating 2. The police investigated a larger ambit and advised the committee, which advice has not been put up in the public domain.
But the police came with a conclusion.
I'll come to it. But I'm saying that
even with what appears to be a major deficit.
Don't worry. Okay. I'll come to it. They investigated 9 people and advised the committee, which advice has not been put out in the public domain. Kweku has intercepted a copy. A few persons have copies. The lawyer of Mr. Bisu writes to the police, which is his right, that he wants to know the outcome of that investigation. The police did not furnish him with a copy of it, to the best of my knowledge. Did not furnish him with a copy of it.
They extracted relative to
Bisu material just about him and gave him a report that we had a difficulty in conducting this investigation because the person who did the investigation told us that he will not cooperate with us because he had reported to OSP. So we had a difficulty. And based on that difficulty, at the conclusion of the investigations, based on the available evidence, none of even all the 9 persons that we looked at was found to be culpable for any offense. This is where I disagree or I depart with Kweku on the interpretation of this. And I'll just explain if you indulge me. You're a lawyer. When somebody is discharged by the court, does it mean he's been acquitted?
They say none found culpable.
I'm coming. When somebody is discharged by the court,
it's not acquitted.
He's not acquitted. They have said that based on what they had and didn't have, they cannot find him culpable. Why? You expect them to say that they have found him culpable? No.
They should have stopped the investigation.
Well, no. They will proceed and advise, and therefore they proceeded to advise.
That's a good question.
No.
That's a good question.
No, they won't stop the investigation.
If the prime, person in the whole matter,
yes,
declines.
No problem. No problem.
Not just decline.
No problem.
But tells you that I have already petitioned your sister.
No problem.
That's key
point.
point.
Who has been given a focused mandate to investigate corruption.
No problem.
And that the uncut raw videos are with him.
Any of that.
Shouldn't the police say, write back to the Minister of Interior and say, we are unable to proceed on the basis of this? And again, Martin Amidu tells us that he's doing it, we should stop. Shouldn't they do that?
So the remit of the police investigation, I think, is important.
Okay.
Was to tell the Interministerial Committee what it ought to know, so that it would. So what? Right now, should the whole fight stop? Should some more persons be moved out of the office, or what? That's the remit. And within that remit, they advise the committee, which report has not been put out by the committee. Bear that in mind.
Yeah, but which report we now? No. Or it's a different report from this.
All that they said is that they have not, based on the evidence available to them, they have not found Mr. X culpable. It is without prejudice to what the Office of the Special Prosecutor did. A few questions. So, for example, did the police, in their engagement with the Special Prosecutor, say, Special Prosecutor, stop your investigation? I don't think they did. Did the police sequester anyone from cooperating with that? I don't think they did. Did the police stop anyone from appearing before the Special Prosecutor? No. Can anybody, let's assume the Special Prosecutor finishes his investigation and says that he has found, based on the evidence he has found somebody culpable. Can anybody go to court and say that my defense is that I've been exculpated by the police? No.
But is this neat? Is it healthy?
No.
Should the police be doing this when the Special Prosecutor says, I am seized with the full facts. Both parties are cooperating, all the parties are cooperating with me. Let me do the job. And the parties, some of them say we will not cooperate. The most important of them say we will not cooperate with you. And you proceed. Well, exercise of judgment.
The police
is it the best way?
Asked to do a job and tell the committee something. That's all they did. Somebody asked them, did you find anything on me? They said that, I can't share with you the full report, but I did not have enough material to have something on you. That has nothing to do with what the Special Prosecutor do. And today, if the Special Prosecutor finds somebody culpable, that person cannot say that his defense
what do you think?
Is that he's been exculpated by the police.
By the law you have learned,
yes.
and both of us have learned in school. Were they supposed to do this towards prosecution? And if they were doing investigations toward prosecution, which is what they do.
My understanding.
Did they put this before the Attorney General for advice?
Which is why I put it in context. I said my understanding of what the committee asked the police to do was, we have seen this thing, it scares us. Tell us something. What should we know? How should we handle our people? What should we do? And they did this work and advised the committee, which reports the committee nor the police have not come to put in the public domain. And the committee has received the brief and has proceeded to decide, for example, on some of the other persons who were named here. All right, so for me, it's a storm in a teacup because it doesn't affect the work of the Special Prosecutor.
Well, the Special Prosecutor thinks differently.
Well, that is fine.
And this is such a major interference.
Yeah, we can respect his view. In fact, he said he doesn't like talkative, so all of us, I'm sure he will have some issues with that.
So Randy, from what you've gotten to know about all of these things, it doesn't look tidy though, but I don't know. From what you also know generally, is this what the police does? They do an investigation and issues you sort of a bill of health. Is that what they do?
Well, I guess you and Kojo would better appreciate the work the police does. But, you know, untidy is being used there, and I think that is the most appropriate thing. I think it's even embarrassing, you know, especially the exposure of the back and forth between two institutional heads, people who are supposed to be working in concert, you know, to deal with issues of fraud and crime and all that. Now look, at the heart of this is the basis for the setting up of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. It was to take away, we're told, that it was to take away the issues of political persecution or bias and all that. So that when it comes to political persons and politically exposed persons, we believe that, look, the Office of the Special Prosecutor is a better place for the determination of those things, to take away the issues of bias. That is what we're told, because at the time that we're setting up that office, the issues of, other state agencies having the competencies and the capacity to do the things we want the special prosecutor to do. One of the key things that was raised is about, look, having apolitical things. And if you have a situation where, look, we might not admit it, but the trust in the police, especially the CID, is not up there. It's not up there. It will be honest with ourselves.
But shouldn't you also be careful? The special prosecutor was in court recently, and some charges were thrown away from him, clearly showing him that, look, you don't have exclusive, jurisdiction over every matter.
Yes.
Those tax issues and all of that, they told him, he should get away.
Yes.
Even though he's gone back and rephrased them in a way that can guarantee what he's going to do.
So,
are we not also supposed to be careful not to give the impression that once the special prosecutor is in, every matter about corruption has to be dealt by
That's
his
not
office?
the point I'm making. When I raised the issue of this politically exposed persons and politicians,
right,
I'm just saying that the rationale for setting up that office, because you raised the same issue, that look, there are institutions that are vested with the authority to deal with these issues you want the special prosecutor to deal with. What is new about that? What is the need for a new bureaucracy? One of the key things is to take out the issue of partisan perceptions and all that. You understand what I'm saying? So, look, it's even in the interest of government, especially in the current climate, that when you have somebody who's one of you, that you do not let some of these institutions, even deal with the issues. That's the point I'm making. It will be more appropriate if you allow the same institution that you say, that look, because we don't want people to say political, and when we talk about political persecution, the opposite of that is also political protection. So what goes for political persecution also goes for political protection. So the same way you'll be accused of persecuting somebody on partisan basis, you could also be accused of protecting somebody on partisan basis. And we need to watch these things. Now, I am not a lawyer, but the wording of the conclusion of the police, for me, is worrying. And you see, there's also a certain deficit in how the police described Anas's cooperation or non-cooperation. They say he failed to. But is that the fact?
Declined.
Is that the fact? It puts Anas in a very bad light. The police is telling a story which is not what, I don't know if Kojo is going to go to NMC.
But subsequently, they put the fact out clear that they spoke to him on phone.
No, I'm just saying that in this is an official document that they gave out. What they said about Anas.
They should have said he declined.
Yes, it wasn't factual.
I'm saying that the subsequent statement negates what they have said earlier.
Yeah, that's the point I'm making.
So it could be someone who is not paying attention to the grammar, as in the word, failed and declined. Like the way you and
I appreciate your advocacy on this matter. But the truth of the matter is that it doesn't tell the full picture. And look at how the contents of this document were published, interpreted and published. That there's an exoneration. What about this constitutes an exoneration? The truth of the matter is that they could not. Yeah. Because the principal witness says that, look, I have petitioned a body that I believe is clothed with a jurisdiction to deal with the matter. I have submitted the raw footages to them. And it appears that the police itself was not interested in asking for those pieces of evidence from the special prosecutor, because it is not on record that they even wrote to the special prosecutor to say that, look, please share this with us. They didn't do that. Meanwhile, we expect these institutions to be talking together and coordinating and not working across purposes.
Okay.
I mean, this is most unfortunate.
Do you think, Sammy, that since they were not able to get Anas and they couldn't get the footage and the full complement, they should have also declined and written back to the minister and say, we are sorry, Martin Amidu is doing it, and they should also have listened to Martin Amidu. At least on that part.
Yeah. Or Kojo tells us that was brother.
That even if they proceeded, they should not have a conclusion on the basis of the lack of those pieces.
Yes, I mean, that's exactly the view I take. So you can either decline and not continue with the investigation, report to the minister that these are the challenges we have.
Right.
Or if you are inclined to proceed, you can say that our investigations are inconclusive.
Right.
And that we defer to the Office of Special Prosecutor. because the Tiger IPI is saying that we are not cooperating because we are already before the OSP. That would have been a neater way of going about it. You know, so honestly, Samson, we have to decide, do we want to fight corruption or not? I am getting worried that we are having too many cases of clearances. You have been cleared, of dubious validity. I mean, and I can cite them. The Australia visa scandal, for example. As we speak, we don't know those who perpetrated that.
Octopus.
No, it's not octopus. It's relevant.
Octopus not tongue.
It's very relevant. And yet we are told that the deputy minister was cleared. Everybody is cleared.
At this juncture,
we don't know.
What is
we
an
don't, we don't know who did it.
I was lawyer for one of the people in that. Yeah. We don't have a report, so I can't share it with you. Maybe if I had, I'll be conflicted, I suppose.
Then there's Movimpina Zoop Oil. There's
those matters have been concluded.
The Ghana Maritime Authority boss who is now GRA chair. We are told he was cleared. Nobody sees the report. You know, we can't continue this way. We can do better at transparency, at sunshine, at ensuring that we follow due process, and we instill public confidence. So I, on this matter, agree with the Office of Special Prosecutor that what transpired was just duplicitous, it was superfluous, it was an obstruction, totally needless, and that he should be allowed to do his work.
Who says it was a waste of time and perhaps
waste of
resources?
And waste of resources. I agree totally. The Office of Special Prosecutor should be allowed to do its work. And this penchant by government to rush to clear.
Well, whilst people
when the public don't even believe in that clearance.
People are having suspicions of some political stuff in all of this. I don't know how could you think about it also, because I recall when you were quizzing the president before he became president, and he promising to use the ANAS principle, that the president would have preferred that the police had listened to the OSP, and because if ANAS is collaborating effectively with the OSP, he would have preferred that, so that all of this doesn't come up.
Yeah, but you can use the ANAS principle and more. There's nothing, I mean, to the best of my understanding, the OSP's work on this particular matter is not stopped.
Okay.
And I think that he's actually still proceeding. If I read some of the things he's written, he's proceeding. And knowing this OSP, he's not swayed or moved or apprehended by the inquiry that the police did and advised the committee about.
Okay.
That's why I say that it's a storm in a teacup.
It was avoidable.
I disagree. It's a category 5 storm. It's not a storm in a teacup. I disagree.
In the end, like I said, if he finds anybody culpable, none of them can say that his defense is exculpation by the police.
Okay.
Of course.
But the police report I'm sure you agree that governance-wise.
So thank you very much. Let me bring this to your attention as we get out of this place. So get ready for the Ghana World Music Festival 2019, a weekend of incredible global music at the Fantasy Dome on Saturday the 3rd and Sunday the 4th of August 2019, featuring artists from Ghana, Jamaica, USA, South Africa, and Canada. You can grab an early ticket now at 50 Ghana cedis regular till Thursday, 80 Ghana cedis VIP, 150 Ghana cedis VVIP, and 450 Ghana cedis at these outlets: Pinkberry, Yo-Yo, Essentials, My Cell Phone Repairs, Nalem Clothing, and Joy FM, starting Monday. So it's from Monday. You can get your tickets. Thank you all.
I found your answer. You know, you were asking if it's good that the sports minister's budget, about 79%,
right,
for the AFCON.
We are out of time. So my guests have been Abdul Malik Kubako, editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper, and I told you next week you will not see him here for at least 1 month. Samuel Okudjetoa Blackwa is MP North Tongue and Ranking Member, Foreign Affairs in Parliament. Randy Abe is host, Good Morning Ghana on Metropolitan Television. Kojo Opon Nkrumah is Information Minister and MP of Fuasi Ayerebi. Thank you all.
Let me make an official announcement.
No, he didn't announce the boycott.
You see, anytime we went to the National Media Commission, Kojo will tell you, they kept asking us, people, what are you doing here? Yeah. Because we're always together having fun and chatting and
disagreeing on the substantive matter.
All right, thank you all very much. This has been Newsfile. I'm Samson Ladia Yenini, and my outfit, as always, is by Latida. Have a good afternoon.